Oh, good day, family. We gonna jump right into it tonight. Let me get my water. I hope you got your tea. Yeah, I went out today. I still didn't get me any tea bags. It's been a few weeks since I've had some tea, but it tea does tend to dry you out too when you drink a lot of it. But I'll get me some more. When I get some, I usually get enough that I can have for quite a while. It's so good to see y'all. It was a beautiful day today, wasn't it? I was really asleep, but my alarm went off, and I was like, let me go on and get up. And I had made a pallet on the floor. I was sleeping right there on the floor. Yeah, and I was like, I'm not even gonna get in the bed because if I do, I ain't gonna want to get up. Oh my, let me put that over there. But it's so good to see you all. I hope everybody had a wonderful day today. I hope didn't nothing get you down. I hope didn't nothing get you down, my people, because it's looking bad out there. And not to mention all the it's quite a few calamities, storms and stuff. There's even a volcano. I watched some volcano in Kilimu, Hawaii somewhere, but it's a volcano. I watched a few minutes of it and stuff. They've been watching it since uh, it's been about a day or so, I guess. And then in Texas, y'all, it was like hell that big around in Texas. They were big like baseballs. Um, and we know about all them sinkholes and stuff. The earth itself is, you know, trying to get rid of the ones that's harming it. That's really what's happening. And then we know they do have that heart machine that's manipulating the weather. That's true. That ain't no conspiracy theory. Now that I've learned what conspiracy theories are, and a lot of people say, "Oh, you believe in conspiracy theory?" That conspiracy theory was created to stop people from knowing what's really going on. Let me get our copyright disclaimer. So it's just a matter of uh, being aware. We can't worry. We got to just be wary and know what's coming if we can. If we can, I don't know any more than anybody else. Just what I'm seeing and witness, and just what I'm learning about what's already happened, what's happened to my people, because I'm worried about my people. I know the whole damn world is on fire. I'm not worried about the world at this point right here. I'm worried about my people. I want my people to survive. Yeah, Mother Earth ain't the only one that wants to get back to her original equilibrium, her original homeostasis. At one time, Mother Earth was all black, and she want to go back there. She wants to be all black again, and I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I want Mother Earth to go back to her natural homeostasis. And when it happened again, don't fuck up and get involved with everybody else to the point where you could literally have your own lineage wiped out. Don't be going out here procreating with everybody else and stuff. Try to learn the lesson. We got to try to learn the lesson, black people. It's a lesson to learn while we're here. It ain't just to exist. We're not here just to exist. We're here to heal black people. If you black, them your people. You here to heal them. We're here to have black babies. We're here to have black babies. If you can have babies and you can use your womb to bring life into the world, black woman, my sister, it's supposed to be a black child. It's supposed to be, your Bible says, you should not be with them and they shouldn't be with you. That's what that means to me. I don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't want to act like, oh, no, it was a long time ago. It was talking about this way. It was talking about that way. Now, as far as black people, it was saying stay with your own kind. That's what it was saying. Stay with your own kind. I don't know why our pastors and reverends haven't really broke all of this down to us, what these contradictions in this Bible mean right here. But we need to know. It's more than just us living and surviving and experiencing this life right here. When you leave earth and go to your next place of being, you don't want to be trapped in that, do you? As far as we know, and we've been taught, it's forever and ever and ever. Do you really want to go and be forever and ever and ever with your tormentors on this earth? Ain't you supposed to be happy and free of pain and hunger and worry and stress and assault and abuse? Ain't you supposed to be free from that in heaven? Well, what I'm reading right now, it don't look like it. It do not look like it. I ain't never even read the Bible. I'm gonna get to it. But what I've discovered so far, just in the scriptures, yeah, the scriptures, I know. When you say scriptures, people look up, huh? That's how powerful it is. But while y'all haven't critiqued them particular scriptures in the Bible about black people, so it can give you at least another train of thought. It can give you another consideration to ponder. Why you look over all that stuff? Slaves, obey your master. Don't question your master about what's going on, why he got everything and you don't. Quit questioning your master why you got to take everything I got. Don't question him. That's your master. Don't try to excuse it away. He was talking to a certain type of people. He was talking to somebody else now. But we so gung-ho that is this. But when it's something that's really telling us something, we excuse it away. Oh, no, that wasn't us. He talking to somebody else. That was under different circumstances. Either it was or it ain't. Quit lying to yourself while you're here on earth. Just to make everybody think you part of something. Oh, yeah, I'm Christian. I'm going to be with Jesus forever and ever and ever. Going along with everybody else. Ain't nobody truly, sincerely thinking for themselves. Sure ain't. Everybody believing somebody else's truth. Somebody else's truth. And this book right here, I looked it up. What was his name? King James. Darren, yeah. I didn't finish high school. Y'all hell. What is the V and the I? What the V stand for in Roman numerals? Shit. I meant to look it up. Go to some chat GPT, Google some shit and find out, well, which king was this? But I did look it up. I think I even took notes on it because I really wanted to know. Did this same man who wrote the Bible? It was they say the Bible had a lot of authors. That's what they said. The Bible got a lot of authors. It ain't just one person that wrote the Bible. It's got a whole lot of authors. Well, this man, he gave them the order to put it together, created, I guess, hell. But the point is, you looking over the main things in the Bible that will be tipping you off that something ain't right here. And see, you ain't looking at it and stuff. So I looked it up. Called Sister Abigail Lucy Mary. I listened to her. She in the motherland. A lot of them telling our stories because we not. I'm learning. I'm just now learning. A lot of stuff I ain't even known about to the depth that I'm learning about now. But we got to tell our own stories too. See, with their assistance, and they doing it. And we start doing it over here. See, that's going to speed up our elevation. That's going to help us to catch up with where we need to be for this spiritual awakening, this second awakening. We in another awakening. Black America is in another awakening. Black Africa is in another awakening. We are in a reawakening. We are one and the same. We're one. We are one. They over there across the waters. We over here across the water. However you want to put it. I'm going to get us a globe. I'm going to get a globe too. So we can be looking at it and see something. Yeah. We're going to do all of that because we need to know these things. I do. And since I'm sitting here and I know I'm supposed to be just reading. But, and maybe I'll get to the point where I just read. I won't give y'all none of my thoughts. Just let you think up stuff on your own. Try to figure your own way out. Try to come with another truth that could possibly be yours. Because, see, this is my truth. And Dr. Deborah Blair said, don't nobody know the truth. You don't know the truth until you decide what it is. You got to decide what that truth is. That whole mental facade about heaven and what it looked like and what it's going to be like. That's the white man's version of heaven. That's the white man's version of heaven. You see what his version of living is like right here on earth. Hell, you see what his version is like right here. He done made it look so good to you, like a pot of chitlins. I'm just saying, like a pot of chitlins. You season that shit so good, you couldn't even tell it was shit. Well, that's how they done did with this right here. Done made heaven sound so good, look so appealing, you want to go there forever and ever and ever. And, it's just indoctrination. But ain't nobody told you, even considered to you, everything that they've done here could possibly be done up there. I mean, your higher power, God, whoever your higher power is, I took mine out the box. I just call my higher power cosmic energy. It's just cosmic energy. I don't even know where the beginning is. Don't nobody know. The white man don't know either. All of this outer space stuff, it's just right here in this universe. He really don't know what's out there. He don't know. Don't nobody know. Nobody, not even me. And honey, I'm telling you, I time travels. I think. But I don't even know what's really way out there. It ain't just one universe, it's a multiverse. Right. So how the hell, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, how the hell the white man know he can't even go out here in this sun too long? He cannot go out here in this sun too much longer than he just can't. Sun will burn his ass up. Yep, he'll be under every last one of y'all. If he had to, he would have y'all asses covering him for shade, because that's the white man and stuff. So yeah, they can't tell me too much of nothing about what's in the afterlife, what's in the ethers up there. So okay, we the one come from the ethers, the cosmos. The cosmos manifested us. It didn't manifest white folks. White folks got a hold of that information and they twisted around and they built up. Yeah, they built up their own creation, their own vision, their own fantasies, and used it against us. It's simple as fuck. It is simple as hell. Anybody can take whatever you drop, whatever you forget, whatever you lose. Anybody can pick it up if it's of interest to them, and they can benefit from it. You lose your groceries. You forgot a bag of groceries. You get home, damn, I know I bought some meat and some bread, and y'all gonna make burgers and fries tonight. I know I bought them a few things. Somebody could get that, honey, and make them a whole 7-course meal, because they could use it. Anybody could take whatever they steal, find, run across, just happen to come a hold of, and they could use it for their benefit. Same thing. The white man just got all of this and used it all to their benefit, to manipulate our mentality. That's what happened. And that's why we don't question nothing. We don't critique nothing. We can't consider nothing. Oh, no, I can't do that. I can never do that. I know it. I got family, too, that's really religious. I just ain't. But I got family, too, they will be there Sunday morning, then come back Sunday afternoon for the 11 o'clock service, then come back at 6 o'clock at night on Sunday. Then they got to be there Tuesday for the meeting, got to be there Wednesday for Bible study. Then Thursday you got practice. Yeah. It's a whole lifestyle that we do in our day-to-day life, just our living. It's worship. It's our communion with God. And I ain't saying other folks don't do it. White folks go to church and stuff too. But it's when you're not in church, do you got a communion, a relationship with your higher power? Do your higher power let you know, that's wrong. Don't you do that. Don't you stomp that baby head like that. Don't you kick that puppy, Because I think that's missing with white folks, even today. Can't say I know any white people personally that would kick a puppy, but I don't know them personally. I just know them coming and going. Some people in my life, in my family's lives and stuff, I don't think they ass would go this far right here. But it's like some of these people stuff don't even know about the rage inside of them. And it's going to happen again, Black America. White America just haven't had to face doing for themselves, not having control of us, not being able to tell us what to do, what to think, not being able to sway us, persuade us. They can't do them things no more. We ain't hearing the shit no more. We finding our own way now. And that's going to lead to white America raging the fuck out again. They just ain't had that reason yet. But it ain't gone nowhere. Trust and believe it ain't gone nowhere. We going to have to protect ourselves too. Yeah, you're going to have to. I'm going to have to too. And I ain't violent. I know you ain't violent. I'm not either. I don't advocate violence. But we're going to have to protect ourselves. You're going to have to do that. If you got your own homestead, you in the perfect setup. You can damn near build you a moat around your house. Yep, you ain't got to build it all the way around. Just be creative with it. Hell, just build that moat where your windows is at. Where the entrances to your house at, if you on your own property. Just build that moat right there where your windows is at. I don't know, set a trap up under the windows. Shit, motherfucker, hell, come over there. Fucking with that window and stuff. You got the booby trap going in the house and stuff. Shit. Hit that. I'm just saying, be creative. We got to be creative now. We in a new awakening. We don't know about none of this stuff. Hell, first of all, nobody knew about robots like this. Hell, you mean tell me y'all been knowing about these robot dolls coming in like 1980 or something? Because that's how long they've been talking about it. Yeah, one sister was like, yeah, they mentioned this. Oh, George Orwell, 1984. It was a lot of stuff being predicted then that's coming to fruition right now. I was like, damn, wow. I finally woke up. And this is what it is. When I woke up, I was asleep for like 43 years. Shit, I thought y'all ass was all right. Shit, I quit school in 11th grade. I didn't know. I thought prosperity. I thought that the politicians, our people that's done got in place, I thought they were doing right, being in them political positions. I thought, hell, I was just fucking up. Okay, I quit school in 11th grade. I didn't reach that educational pinnacle. I could deal with that. I was like, hell, shit, we just barely learned to read anyway. I knew it was something, but I didn't know it was so many sabotages. I was just like, damn, all of us fucked up, didn't we? It was by design. It was by design. And I'm glad you woke up too, because I woke up, sure did, honey, and I'm fucking pissed about what's been done to black people. Have you heard? You ain't heard yet. You gonna hear soon. Yeah. Let's give out some goodness. Hey there, I am Kiara. I know that's right. Eclipse Apple. Good reading. Thank you. You welcome. Chicago, get your suicide self out of here. Big Bang, ha, ha, ha. What? I don't know who you talking about, but I feel threatened by God. Okay, sweetie. I don't know about y'all, but reading between the lines and stuff, you probably shouldn't even be here. I don't know. Maybe you need something different. I just hope you thinking for yourself. And I hope you here for black people. Because if you ain't here about healing black people, you is in the wrong place and you wasting your time. You is in the wrong place and you're going to waste a whole lot of time tonight. You sure will. This right here is for black people. I'm a black woman. I don't mean no harm to other people, whatever group of people you in and stuff, but I'm not for your healing. Eventually, I'm going to get to your people and what your people did to my people. So see, it all depends on you, where you supposed to be at. I don't know where y'all people supposed to be. I don't know y'all. I'm just here for my folks, my people, black people. Yep, I want to know who hurt my people, who did it. So far, it's looking like white America, but I'm catching glimpses. I'm reading little stuff on the side that some of y'all other groups of people have done black people dirty too. Y'all done did black people dirty too. Y'all beginning to let y'all racism out. How y'all feel about black people? I don't know. It would seem like since everybody been setting us up for decades and centuries, just been lying and misleading us and stuff, acting like you are friends and shit. And then it's like within the last few years, it's been just a few years, I know. It seemed like everybody just jumped on white America's side. Yeah, we were white America. We were white America. We love white America. We white. we white. Everybody just jumped on white America side, and now black folks saying, well, hell, fuck all of y'all shit here. We by ourselves. And then, you seen the train. I seen the train on TikTok. And now everybody is pissed off because they want to be with black folk. But black folk, we can't trust y'all no more. We don't want to be with y'all no more. So as for me, I don't know y'all, and if you ain't black, you probably going to be irritated the whole time you here. And I just want you to know that ain't good for you. Because I'm going to cuss your ass out if you come in here the wrong way. You can't come in here the wrong way. You just can't do that. You're going to have to go over there on Sister Channel and, deal with all of that and stuff. Because right here, it's strictly for black people. I'm strictly for black people. Everybody that's done did something to my people. Your people too. Your people too. That's done harmed and hurt and misled my people. You condoned everything that white America did to my people in America and Africa. You knew about the American Dilemma, that 1,408-page, I don't know what to call that monolith, but it's a novel or something. Whoa, of genocide. 1,408 pages of genocide. So see, yeah, I don't really want people that's not for black people to come in here and waste your time and stuff, because it ain't gonna do you no good. It ain't gonna do you no good. Then if I tell my ancestors on your ass because you in here trying to stop what they need to be exposed and known, because I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that's telling this. I just came literally like 5 months ago and sat down to start telling what I'm seeing and how I feel about it. And I just, yeah. It's like, y'all people still don't want the truth to be known about my ancestors. And I'm going to tell all of them on y'all asses. I'm going to tell my ancestors, Mother Gaia, to open up and just go ahead and get rid of all of y'all asses. We can go back to at once all black on the planet. At one time, this planet was all black. I will tell Mother Gaia and the cosmos to, yeah, smash all y'all asses down. Let's start all over again. That's the lesson we got to learn, Black America. We got to stop being with everybody else. We got to stop procreating with everybody else. Hell, if your ass want to be with Sabrina and stuff, shit, hell, I don't know if you going to have kids. I would say don't. But if you do, decide to teach your children and encourage your children to let you live on, my brother. Why can't your people live on? Because when you get with other people outside of this race, it's like, who gonna live on? Both of y'all lineage is not gonna live on. No, both of y'all, especially if it's targeted. Interracial relationships now is weaponized. After 3 generations, you wiped out. You wiped out, black man, black woman, after 3 generations. That's like you getting with Sabrina. You and Sabrina having a baby. Y'all teach that baby, love who you want to love, and and all this and that. Then the baby grow up and hell decide, shit, I'm gonna get me a white man. Hell, that was Sabrina mama and grandmama and them been telling that baby when they got that baby over there, get you a savior, putting that all into the back of that baby head. So when the baby grow up and stuff, hell, you and Sabrina ass broke up. So they pretty much had free reign of that baby's mind. And then, well, I'm just saying, it's just a scenario that could happen. And then that baby grow up and get her ass a white man, have some babies. Them babies grow up, get them a white man, have some babies. It go back to white. White people got a few more. They got a few more births that they can count. Because, see, their birth rate is low. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said that they is upset about white genetic survival. Now, hell, it look like shit. They getting our numbers down so small. We might need to start thinking about black genetic survival. I'm just saying. I didn't know about all of our greats. I had no idea. I'm learning about so many of them stuff. I'm wondering, damn, why black folks ain't put all this together? Y'all just been holding on to these pieces of the puzzle and ain't tried to put them together or nothing. At least I can say, hell, don't take your ass to heaven with white folks. What can you say? Oh, God is the same, and everybody is peaceful and happy and loving on each other and flying here and there in heaven and stuff. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. As it is, as above, so below. Your asses is fucked up in heaven too, because white folks is there. That's where John Brown at in heaven telling white folks that, damn, you still up here controlling black people. You still up here controlling black people. Up in heaven. Your pearly white gates, that's because once you go in, you can't get back out till they open them gates and let you out, Black America. It's the truth. I'm not lying to you. Any wild fantasy that you can believe in the Bible, I know, oh, it didn't really happen. It's just what do you call it? You know, the word and stuff. Yeah, it didn't really happen. It's metaphorical, whatever y'all be saying and stuff. Allegorical. Yeah, it didn't really, well, same thing then. But if you can believe in that, you can believe in what I'm saying too. Give your mind a chance. You got the big brain. You came from the cosmos. White folks didn't. White folks didn't. They made themselves seem superior and knowing so much and intellectual. And they made themselves seem sovereign. But they not. They not. They didn't even come from the cosmos. Hell, I don't know how they got in them caves and stuff. I always thought when I was a little girl that, the babies, it was the babies. They were young kids when they was kicked out. Something about the albinos and stuff. I don't know where I read that, but it's been a long time. And when I was real young, and I was just like, okay, I can believe that. They probably when they got up some age where they could fend for themselves, then they was albinos, I guess. I don't know. And they was kicked out of the tribes and stuff. And they went to the mountains where they could be sheltered and, protected from the animals and, the weather and stuff like that. And then eventually they came out. I don't know where the hell they came from. Yakub, the big head scientist, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out myself, but I know they ass didn't come from the cosmos. I know that because didn't nobody come from the cosmos but the black man and the black woman. Yeah, Eve didn't come from no rib out of Adam. Eve came directly from the cosmos, a shooting star. You see him today. Every time we see a shooting star, right today, we be like, we'll do a wish on it. When we see a star, a shooting star. So when that shooting star at the beginning of time, it wasn't even at the beginning of time because the cosmos was already there, always. The multiverse was always up there. It just decided that it wanted to manifest. Yeah, it's alive. It's giving birth to stars, storms, rainbows, black holes. What's that? The nebulas and stuff, Crab Nebula, all of that stuff that I've been learning and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, it's so much. So, in the midst of all that and stuff, it could have been a couple million years, billion years before the cosmos actually manifested a black woman and a black man. But when it did happen, it was a shooting star. You ever seen two shooting stars? Can y'all imagine two shooting stars? Let me get some shout outs because I know you don't understand. Yeah. What God getting at, God is, yeah. Oh, you right, Leah. It is figurative. Yeah. I know. Why God, you hate babies? I'd have proof you hate babies. Honey, I don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah, I can't live, but humans got hate problems. I'm scared of you, Goddess. I don't know why. I don't know why either, honey. I guess you're not black. I don't know. If you are black, don't be scared of me. Yeah. Yeah, I'll cuss. I'll cuss your ass out. I will cuss, Faith. Yeah, I won't curse you and say be damned for life. I won't curse your ass, but I'll cuss your ass out. Now, ain't nothing wrong with cussing. As far as I'm concerned, he'll cuss as much as your ass like. You can cuss. Ever since I was 6 years old, and my daddy heard me cussing. And I thought I was doing it. I was probably about 9, I guess. I don't know. I was a young girl. And I thought I was cussing and stuff. And I was like, shit, motherfucker, goddamn asshole. And my daddy heard me. And all the disappointment in him. And he was like, Pooh, why would you say them things? You know, that made me feel some type of way. And so I stopped. But when I could cuss, oh, honey, yes, I will cuss your ass out. Yeah. And then, you know, it's over with. It wasn't nothing but a cuss word shit. Get yourself right. People won't be cussing you out. And they say, set your black ass down. You know, you set your ass down when your mama told you, set your black ass down. Whatever you were doing, jumping up on that couch, running in and out the house. You know, ain't nothing wrong with a cuss word shit. The problem is when we go to cursing each other. Be less you. Good morning, good death. Be less you. When we say them things to each other, see, it does us negative. It don't do us too much benefit. We just don't know these things, and we don't know the negative that's attached to them things. All day today and stuff, I was saying, I said it a couple of times earlier. I was like, I be damned. But I don't like saying that no more because I'm not damned. No, I'm not damned. When I used to say that before I was woke, and, you know, I'd be like, I be damned. Everybody look. Be wondering, well, damn, what is it? What is it? Because it means something. Damn, that's unbelievable. But, you know, I was like, I don't want to be saying that no more because I know I'm not damned. Oh, no, I know these things now. I know these things now, and it's time for you to know too, Black America. Quit being afraid of seeking the truth within yourself. That's what you got to do. Dr. Deborah Blair said, don't nobody know the truth. They can't tell you the truth. You got to decide what the truth is. You do, right here on earth. You got to decide what the truth is. You know, and I don't know, when you get in heaven and stuff and you be trapped up there, probably can't nobody free you. Because at this time, allegedly 2025, you got information. You got new knowledge that our ancestors did not have. John Hartfield did not have no new knowledge. Maurice Mays did not have no new knowledge. They didn't know about nobody but God and Jesus. You know, Isaac McGee, right? Lynched right here in Minnesota. Isaac, Elias, and Elmer lynched right here, crying for Jesus. They didn't know about Yahweh and Yahushua. I didn't either. I'm learning myself. You know, I'm learning myself. A lot of us, all we know today is Jesus and God. I go home right now down through my neck of the woods and, oh yeah, get to talking about Yahweh and Yahushua, and we talking and we congregating and eating, and I'm meditating or praying before we eat and stuff. And everybody, who is Yahweh? Wait a minute, face. Now, who is Yahushua? Because we don't know them. We don't know them. Y'all didn't make sure us down here, that didn't reach that educational pinnacle. Y'all didn't make sure we got that information. You just didn't. So now today, you know, it's like you got new information that they didn't have. So, you know, they in heaven. Isaac was in heaven because he didn't know about Yahweh and Yahushua. And then I'm kind of the point, is that where Yahweh and Yahushua taking you to heaven? That's where you going also? Y'all better talk to each other. Somebody got to talk to each other about this now. I mean, you can't keep ignoring what our ancestors went through, like it don't have no meaning for us. You can't keep doing that. Even afterlife, especially afterlife. This book right here, why come y'all not assimilating our historical experiences, traumas? Why come y'all looking all around that and stuff? Why y'all not trying to critique this and see what's to this? Everybody seems like they want to know why Black America can't come together. You got your Bible right here, and then in the Bible it said you're supposed to be helping those that can't help themselves, the poor and the hurt. You're supposed to be calling out the oppressors. That's what the Bible said you're supposed to be doing. One of them scriptures and verses, and y'all, and that's white folks. That's white folks. You rather stay so complacent and keeping the peace with white folks that you don't even want to mention this. No consequences that this had on our people. This is why we can't come together. White America. Shit, your body's memory. Your body's memory. Black people, you got your memory from your people back like 30,000 years. Hell, you been here, they say 300,000 years. I was listening to Dr. Anthony Browder. Yeah, my brother. And he said that, honey, we was here 290,000 years before white folks even got here. They literally been here 24 hours on the planet. That took over everything. By that 22nd hour, they had everything. Yep, they motherfucking asses came in and took everything as soon as they got here. Yeah, they were planning on their way here. They was. And now, yeah. So I'm like, hell, considering that, do that mean white folks today? Like I got my body's memory of my ancestors and stuff. I didn't know why we treat white people like this. It's a ingrained fear inside of us that we automatically know. You get it from trauma. Mainly you get it from trauma. I think Dr. Joy DeGraw touched on it a little bit, but I was listening to somebody else and they were talking about it too. And because I was like, do white folks have this body memory? Can they ass remember what their ancestors did? Because, they ancestors called themselves the Ku Klux Klan. Now, they was inflicting trauma and terror and torment on my people, but they went through it. They did the action. So that's trauma too. And don't they ass remember that? Even though they didn't experience no pain and stuff, they didn't cry nothing through none of these lynchings. Even after it happened, after these lynchings happened, there wasn't no crying. There wasn't no feelings of remorse, repent, trying to make some atonement. It was just like, and then just start doing what business as usual. So I'm like, I asked the question. I was like, so do white people got body memory too? And they were like, yep. Pretty much. They didn't come out and say yeah. But yeah, they beat around the bush with it. So you trying to say white folks got body memory too? They do. And their body memory is this right here. I'm going to show you. You finna see both of our body memories at the same time. And I'm looking at, I don't know, Faith. I don't know what you talk about. Oh, honey, AI ain't for black people. Human character be hateful. I don't understand why people think. Honey, AI is not for black people. And I don't think you is either. I don't know who you is and stuff, but I hope you have a good night and find you somewhere to be where people can use you and your intelligence and you can inspire and motivate people to be all they can be. But it ain't here, Faith. It ain't here. Oh, thank you, Leo. I can't wait to talk to you. But yeah, look, this is your body DNA. This is your body memory. That's what it's called, your body memory. I just learned about it myself. Your body memory. We got in our body memory, we remember our body. We remember Willie. White folks in their body's memory, they remember this. That's what's in our body's memory. We don't know why we won't come together, but we feel why we won't come together because we know white America will come out a bag on our asses so fast. Ooh, you better not build up 3 stories on them tiny houses. A white folks finna snap out. Anything that's taking away their comfort of being in control, of having all the power, all the money, being able to sway and persuade black people. It's all about black people. See, that's where the rage comes from. I don't know. I didn't know none of this hell. I thought everything was all right. And first of all, I didn't even know about all the trauma that we've been through. Furthermore, I didn't know it was white folks that done did all the trauma. Because as far as I know, I woke up in when Trayvon Martin was lynched. Y'all, I did. Until then, 43 years of my life, I thought everything was okay. I thought black men was all right and safe, and black women was okay and safe, and we all was like, on this equal opportunity platform and stuff we call life. And, you know, I just thought that I was fucking up and people around me where I lived at in my little hick town, that we all were just, you know, all of us just fucked up. Hell, I wasn't the only one that dropped out of school. I wasn't the only one that had a baby or two when I was a teenager, because I was a teenage mother. That's why I dropped out of school. Yeah, but I, you know, I was just like, oh yeah, well shit, you know, we fucked up, and then walk across the stage and stuff. Get your damn GED, take care of your babies, raise your kids. You know, it was that with me and stuff. But now I've been learning since Trayvon Martin, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute now. You mean to tell me black people is not all right? You mean to tell me my people out here and they ain't all right, even if they doing the right thing? You graduated. You received that educational pinnacle. You went to college. You got a whole lot of degrees and certificates. You got a whole lot of accomplishments. You're so smart and intelligent and holding your own. You know, you reached them pinnacles. You got financial pinnacle, financial freedom. You know, you got money to come and go. You're traveling the world and stuff. You're so beautiful and gifted. I just knew, and then it was like, wow, all of that now, face. I'm sorry to tell you, it's only like maybe 350,000 that reached them pinnacles that we call success. And they forgot all about your ass. They forgot all about you. As soon as they got to them pinnacles, a lot of them, they forgot about us. They forgot about the good fight. They left and never came back. Some of them left and don't even go back to their hometown. Don't send nothing to their hometown. I remember the first one I did read about, that was when he reached that financial pinnacle. He sent a semi-truckload of turkeys and stuff home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I think his name was Buddy Terrence Crawford, my brother. And I was like, wow. But you know, it is others that do that too. Because after I found him and stuff, and that he give back to his community and stuff, his little small town and stuff. And then, you know, and then I seen other suggestions of other of our people that do try to help back at home. But most of they motherfucking asses, they don't give a damn about you. So don't, in my opinion, they ass sitting up there telling them how to market to you. Because we know white folks been marketing to us. They've been studying how to market to black people since like 1974, when they came out with that damn documentary, How to Market to the Negro. And they had the little black and white video and stuff, you know, and the black woman in the store and looking at stuff, you know, but she can't try it on. She can't try it on and stuff. She can just look at it and stuff. But when she can, she just feeling the fabric and stuff like that. How to Market to a Negro. That was the name of it. So it made me feel like their asses is getting in them seats. And they tell me, yeah, well, how about we do this right here? Giving their asses suggestions. Don't none of it make sense to me. So I'm like, yeah, we got to find out what's going on. I do. That's why I'm here. I'm here about my people. I don't know about why nobody else is here, but you shouldn't be here where I'm at. If you're not about black people, you're not about healing black people, trying to let black people know that, hey, we got to inspire each other. If you ain't trying to inspire black people and let black people know, keep a song in your heart, be grateful, then you in the wrong place. Me and you ain't going to get along. Sure ain't. I don't know if you got a new name or what, but yeah, don't come here with that shit. Yeah, I'm Face the Nation. We on Bolden Unchained. And yeah, I just told you we hear about black people. Yeah, I'm here to uncover, to assist Black America. Yeah, to uncover and condemn. I'm condemning every motherfucking thing. All the operations, events, laws, codes, projects, plans, the memos, memorandums. They got memos out on black people now. It's so many targets on Black America. I don't even read it no more. But here it is right here. Here to assist Black America and Black media to uncover and condemn the many agendas, bills, events, projects, operations, code, compromises, acts, laws. It's so many of them. I'm just still appalled by it. And I feel like you should know. And I'm the one to tell you, Black America, I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing for you, because we don't need no sugar-coated shit today. We need the truth today. We need to be able to critically think before we go any further. Just get to a point where you're ready to protect and provide and strengthen your family, your community, your people. so we could get through this, whatever we going through, this new awakening, this reawakening, this new wilderness. Ain't finna be no trees. They ain't cutting down all the damn trees. Wherever you go, robot finna see you. Sophia, the humanoid robot finna see you. Flying drones, the flying cars and stuff finna see you wherever you go. Yeah, we're gonna get into that EMP clothing too. You know, if you got the finances and you reach that financial pinnacle and stuff, you can go get you some of them EMP clothes. And you know, it'll shield you from the radiation and stuff. And I don't know, maybe you can move around and stuff without them robots. We're gonna have to be creative going into this new world order. It's fucked up. I'm like, how the fuck did black people let all of this shit carry on? How the fuck? Ooh, I wish I knew who some black folks was. But see, I never really keep up with politics. I didn't keep up with all of that and stuff, you know, where I'm from and stuff. I don't think nobody did. The elders, the elderly people, but that's because they knew about history. They knew about history. As far as myself, and I guess, you know, some people of my age and stuff, and we didn't reach that educational pinnacle. We didn't learn what we supposed to been learning and stuff and what was important. So, you know, we kind of fell through the cracks and stuff. So now I'm like, damn, hell, even if I didn't know about politics and stuff, somebody did. You mean tell me y'all motherfuckers let James Clyburn stay in that political seat, blocking the door from everybody? Who getting up in here wanting something for black people? Y'all let that man set up in there in that political seat and block every opportunity for black people to gain something. I'm just saying. I'm just using him because I remember hearing Sister Vicky talk about James Clyburn. I don't even know what the man looked like, but I remember her saying his name because he always, who wants something for black people? But I'm just saying, y'all let all these politicians, after our greats was gone, and our greats retired, and then they transitioned, they transcended, you know, and then these other folks is sitting in these seats and stuff, ain't doing a motherfucking thing, and y'all asses sitting there, ain't even saying nothing. I don't care if you're in another state and you keep up with politics. Shit, you supposed to call your family, your friends, somebody in the other state and be like, girl, you know, James Clyburn, he's sitting in your state. He the representative in your state. Girl, that motherfucker sitting in there, he blocking everything that black people could be getting in your state. He done blocked all y'all educational funds. He done blocked all y'all housing funds. Every bill that come across, he block it. Why y'all ain't been calling each other and telling us? Especially with the internet. So I'm like, damn, now I gotta learn who all these people is so I can cuss their motherfucking asses out and ask them, what was you thinking? You got a little comfort. You got a little comfort letting all this shit slide against your people and stuff. But what about when you gone? These things you done set in place and you done blocked it from even coming to fruition for your people. That's hurting black kids. Do that man not know that everything he blocking and stopping is hurting his own nieces and nephews and the babies that's gonna be born and stuff? See, that's because we ain't thinking about stuff. We just letting white folks tell us everything, program us with everything. It's fucked up. Yeah, sometimes I don't even be want to talk to black folks because I just be like, damn, you don't want to hear what I gotta say, I can go. Sure, I can leave, honey. Yeah, I bet you when your ass see me again, ooh, face. I remember when you said about the sun giving me all this energy. And it's just for some reason, face, the sun was following me all day. I felt the warmth of the sun on me. Because your ass needs something new, something different. I know you feel it. You feeling this awakening because it's a spiritual awakening. But see, you wrestling with yourself because you don't know who to trust, who to believe in. Your Bible done taught you one thing and you feel like you're blaspheming if you start learning about your own people. You feel like you blaspheming and you questioning God, and now you wondering, now I can't go to heaven, and trying to, make it suit you. But it's not. You just gonna have to face it head on. What's wrong with your people? What's wrong with your people and why? Why? And then finally, do you really want to spend your ever after with these same people? I'm just saying, where's the justice for my people? You know, yeah, I gave myself permission to do this. I asked my higher power. Because I felt like I was blaspheming too, but I just asked my higher power, look here. Can I please seek the truth? I need to know the truth. Yeah. And my higher power told me, yeah, because I was like, if you really my higher power, you should want me to know the truth instead of believing all these lies. Like I believe my people was okay for 40 some years of my life. And now I need to know the truth. Can you give me permission? I'm going to find the truth. And my higher power said, yes, I give you permission to seek the truth. So I don't feel like I'm blaspheming. I don't feel like I'm questioning God. No. See, that's that blasphemy shit come from the Bible and stuff. Because they done brainwashed your ass with this. So see, you got to, you're going to have to find that way so you can get out of that. Just ask your higher power. Yahushua and Yahweh and the other names and stuff. I'm going to write all of them down so I can put them right here at least. And then I can call off your higher power too. Because I know how y'all feel about your higher powers and stuff. But here, ask your higher power. Can you seek the truth and find out where you're supposed to go forever and ever and ever? Forever and ever and ever. See, I ain't here just for earth. I'm not here to just free us and liberate my people right here on earth. No, I'm liberating us in the other life too. Yeah, when we leave here, I already done told Emmett Till now. Yep, Isaac McGee and them too. You can get up out of heaven if you want to. Yep, you can get up out of heaven. And see, the thing about them, what I was saying earlier, and then I'm going to go on and get to reading and stuff. The thing about them is Isaac McGee, for all of his crying out for Jesus and God when they were lynching him over here in Duluth, when he went to heaven, when he finally, they died, they lynched him. Him and Willie Brown and John Hartfield and Maurice Mays, all of them, they lynched them. 5,000 people that the equal justice, came up with. And when they lynched them and stuff, and they got to heaven and say Jesus was there and taking them to God. And but the closer they got to them gates, y'all, they wings shrunk. They wings went on the inside. Now us, we got new knowledge, new information right here at our fingertips. We can learn. So when we pass away and go over there to heaven, our wings don't retract inside of us. They clip your motherfucking wings. Because see, you got new knowledge. You got new information. See, that's cosmic. The cosmos did that. The ethers did that. Retracted their wings so they wouldn't be clipped. Now your ass, my ass, if I'd be like, no, I'm still going to heaven. I know what the Bible said. I wake up one morning and come on here telling y'all, yeah, y'all, I'm going to heaven. I'm going to heaven, y'all. I changed my mind. I know what I said before, but now I'm going to heaven. If I do that shit after everything I know and done learned, and the thoughts that I done started thinking, and say I do that bullshit, when I pass away and go over, and I'm going to heaven. Yeah. My wings are going to be clipped because I ignored the knowledge, the new knowledge. I ignored the new knowledge that I had. So see, yeah, if I take my ass to heaven now, that's when your wings are clipped. But our ancestors that didn't have the new knowledge, their wings retracted. That's the protection of the cosmos. So when a few weeks ago, I didn't know. I just said it don't make no sense to me. And I told Emmett Till and all of them, you can get up out of heaven right now if you want to. You can. Yeah, you can. Now, some of us today that, our loved ones and stuff, that done passed over and stuff, and they, I don't think they could leave. I don't know. But I know our victims that were, I'm not no victim. Don't be coming in here saying that bullshit. I'm not no victim. I want your ass to know who the victim is. See, everybody wants to say, oh, don't act the victim and stuff. You bitch. And that's how I feel too. Because you don't want us to know about our people, our history, all these facts. Why? You gonna come in here trying to save white folks? I cuss your ass out. Yeah. So we looking through a spiritual lens because by now you should know I'm not religious. I don't forgive a motherfucker. I sure don't. I don't forgive Carolyn Bryant, her brother, her husband's kids, her husband's kids. I don't forgive Carolyn's kids. Carolyn Bryant lived her life over there in Kentucky. Black people found her motherfucking ass after she lied on Emmett Till. Said she died of cancer. She was ravaged by cancer. But she lived a full life over there in Kentucky after she did that. Still didn't repent, ask for no forgiveness, still didn't make no atonement to Emmett. And then y'all think they in heaven together. Don't be a fool and a dummy. Don't be a fool or a dummy. So I told them, yeah, you can get up out of heaven if you want to. And when I said that and stuff and they started leaving, I don't know if they started walking or hopping or what, but their wings came back out for them and they flew right on up out of heaven, honey. They in the multiverse. They ain't in heaven in the first universe. They up there in the multiverse. Free. They're free. They're free. That's what you're going to do. You're going to trap yourself in heaven. Y'all, we've been trapping our ancestors our whole life because we've been believing this fantasy about heaven. We ain't trying to remember nothing. We ain't trying to think of nothing. Farrakhan got a song. The white man's heaven is the black man's hell. I didn't even know the man could sing. And y'all act like it don't mean nothing. Oh, Farrakhan, shit. Ain't nobody trying to hear about no Farrakhan. Just don't want to hear the message at all. You don't want to hear the message. Because here, you'd rather keep your ass under white folks. That's what it is. You're scared of white folks. You can't see your life without white people. You can't. You can't see yourself giving empathy and compassion to nobody but white folks. You can't be a nurturer to black kids, but you can be a nurturer to white folks. Yeah, just like Uncle Tom's Cabin. I know y'all said Tom was a hero. I know. I read the book. I said I'm going to watch the movie. I'm going to read it again. We're going to read it together because I got a problem with Tom. I think Tom motherfucking ass here. He took them slaves back. Tom could have did something else. Yeah, Tom could have did something else. The master let him take them slaves and hire them out and told Tom to bring them back. And Tom took them back. I know y'all said Tom did some heroic things and stuff, but I feel like hell, Tom ass should have made a way to get away. Yeah, he should have. Hell, he could take off his damn shirt and hang it on the tree over there and let them run that way. That would have been the hero. Not taking them back to the master made him the hero. I'm just saying, hell, he fell in love with the little white girl. And she had some terminal illness and stuff. And Tom walking around the plantation. Oh, big old Tom. Tom for Tom's Cabin. By Harriet Beecher Stowe, whatever that lady's name is. And Tom walking around with this white child. Loving, crying. Big old hulk of a man. And he walking around with this little white child in his arm crying and stuff. Because, you know, she got weaker and weaker. And stuff. But then you got little black slaves running around and stuff. And he didn't even care about the little black kids. He looked into that little white girl eyes and it's like he see the universe open up for him. Well, what the hell did he see when he looked at the little black kids? You know, so yeah, I'm just like, you know, it don't make no sense to me and stuff. We indoctrinated. You better change your mindset. Yeah, I'm just saying. So yeah, we looking through a spiritual lens. We ain't looking through no religious lens at all over here. I'm just being tolerable of the Bible. I can tolerate it. I can tolerate it because I ain't never read it before, but I believed in it. I believed in the Bible. It's got some truth to it. Yeah, the most important truth in it, y'all ain't even paying attention to it. Hell, I mean, shit, it's clear to see that ain't nobody, we ain't really marrying each other like that and naming our babies and stuff like we should with 2-parent households, a black man and a black woman, you know. So in other words, yeah, we all got a lot of bastards. And that's what a baby called without the daddy's last name, I guess, you know, to marry the husband and the wife. And ain't nobody married. So the baby is called the bastard. That's what bastard means. You ain't got no daddy. No, you ain't, your daddy and your mama ain't married. You got a daddy. Somebody here did something and got you here. But you see what I'm saying? The Bible say a bastard cannot get into heaven. I was listening to somebody and they brought up that scripture. I forgot about that scripture. And so, you know, hell, a whole bunch of us is having bastards. So how the hell them bastards gonna get up in heaven? This what your Bible say. Them the things that we got to start critiquing now. If you're going to keep this Bible open, you got to look at the parts you didn't want to read and study and learn. Not the same old scriptures over and over and over again. I mean, that damn shit, that's dumb. Why you going to stay on the same damn scriptures? Shit, and everybody want to go to Revelation today. Everybody want... You know Revelation from the front to the back. You know that whole Bible from the front to the back. But them contradicting scriptures, you won't even touch them. Them probably the only parts of your Bible that you ain't got nothing to do with. You look right over them. Yeah, it be like slaves obey your master. Over here it's talking about love your neighbor, love everybody. If somebody slap you, let them slap the other side and stuff. Let them whoop your ass and stuff. And you reading all that and stuff because it's telling you, like, forgive it. Let it happen. Tolerate it. Compromise with it. But then over here and stuff, when it's telling you, slaves obey your master. Come out of Babylon, you know, and your daughter don't be with his son, and his son don't. You don't look at that right there. Your ass just turn the page. That's how Black America do. Yep, that's how Black America do. I'm so glad I didn't even get into the religion and stuff like that. I quit going as soon as I could. So yeah, we're looking at a spiritual lens. We look at through a spiritual lens of loyalty, resilience, and education. We learning. I'm learning. I don't know if you learning or not, but I know I'm learning. And y'all teaching me myself. Y'all teaching me yourself. I'm learning so much from y'all and stuff, and y'all giving me suggestions. Just giving me suggestions. I take it from there. See, you can lead. Yeah, it's true. You can lead that horse to water, but hell, that don't mean you're gonna make him drink. You can hold the water up there. That don't mean he gonna drink it. You know, but I thank y'all because I'm here to learn. I want my people to know that this ain't all. This is not all right here, honey. We got a whole life forever and ever. We'll be so happy in the afterlife, y'all. We will be so happy and so free. I'm telling you. Now, it is a spiritual war going on up there in the ethers. It is. I'm not going to lie to you about that. Good versus evil. Just like it is right here. As above, so below. And I think on that point right there, I'm like, oh, so one of them white folks got out of heaven, huh? Oh, they must have seen somebody, prosperity, they must have seen somebody taking that detour. I don't know how they found out that, you know, that a whole lot of our people is in the afterlife. They're not in heaven. There's quite a few in heaven, though. But, you know, some of us, yeah, didn't go to heaven. We knew instinctively. You know, we knew by instinct. But see, you got to get yourself out of that indoctrination to do that. You got to. Now, my mama believed in Jesus and God. Yeah. But before she passed away, she knew that I didn't believe in Jesus and God no more. Black Jesus, yeah. I believe in Black Jesus. If anybody come back, it's going to be Black Jesus. And, you know, and this right here is our Black Bible. Get used to it. Get used to it. Your ass got used to this Bible. You got used to that white man's Bible. Now get used to Black man's Bible. Get used to the Black man's Bible. It ain't going nowhere. It's mine. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to be showing it a whole lot. This is our Jesus right here. Yeah. I know you want to cry over that white man, Cesario Borgio. Yeah, I was listening to brother, and he told me about Black people fame, throwing up at the Passion for the Christ. What's that movie? Passion of the Christ. Then they got what the greatest story ever told and stuff about Jesus. Y'all motherfucking asses fainting in the movie theater. Throwing up. Cause Jesus being, you know, they cut him and stuff. And some, you know, they stabbed him right there in the side and stuff and nailed his hands to the cross. They beat him. Y'all asses in there fainting, throwing up, sick. Got to take you out and stuff. Ain't even got that much empathy to remember your own Jesus. So yeah, all of my brothers and my sisters, that's where our loyalty is supposed to be at, y'all. That's where our loyalty is supposed to be. And then to survive all of this and create all of the contributions that we still utilize today, that these motherfuckers is erasing. How you think they did that? That's because of the resilience. The resilience. We come from the cosmos. Can't nothing get rid of us. We gonna be here. We gonna be here. We just gotta make sure that these motherfuckers don't exterminate us, because that's what they trying to do. And they ass ain't even thought about that. Because if they get rid of black people, honey, the whole sun gonna blow up on their ass. Ain't nobody gonna be on this motherfucking planet. No more. Sure, right? I don't know why ain't nobody told white people that they ain't really thought about this. I don't know why ain't nobody told their ass. Scared, I guess. Well, I ain't scared of their motherfucking ass, sure ain't. I'm not scared to tell them. You fuck up and minimize our numbers so low and think you're doing something. You think you're doing something? You ain't. The sun gonna blow up on everybody. So it won't be nobody here no more. White folks ain't thought about this, and y'all better stop letting them think for you, Black America. Stop letting them folks think for you. What the fuck? Shit, I know you feel the power inside of you. I know you feel all of that greatness in you. You feel something. You feel that spark inside of you. I mean, damn, shit, am I the only one? Is it only just certain ones of us? I mean, because it's supposed to be more of us now that ain't fearful. Y'all the one always saying, God didn't give you no spirit of fear. That's all I've been hearing my whole life. That God don't give us no spirit of fear. God don't give us no spirit. And your ass scared than a motherfucker. Your ass is, just stop lying. Your ass is scared as shit that you got to confront white folks and let white folks know, hey, what you done did, what your ancestors did. Where your atonement at for that? Don't you know that's still unresolved? You know, I get it. I get the fear, the traumatizing and stuff that we done been through and stuff. You know, we traumatized. But that's no excuse. That still ain't no excuse. So, yeah, you know, let's do the copyright disclaimer because I'm just trying to read. I just want y'all to know where I'm coming from and who I love, why I'm here. You have a copyright disclaimer under 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Well, damn, his ass rolling us back to what, 1965? So, hell, I might not even have to read this shit no more. I'm just playing. Let's read this shit here till they say so, right? I know. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair uses are used permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. And I'm not doing this for profit. No, I ain't here for your money and stuff. That's why my little membership, I ain't trying to get no $4.99. Who the hell got $4.99 a month? I know, a month. See, I ain't reached that financial pinnacle like some folks did. Hell, I got like 20 jingles, mentors. King Simon said, you know, mentors is a small word. You know, it's a minuscule word. So we got to elevate our language and stuff. Well, it's Jenga, Jenga. So, you know, I got like 20, 30 jingles that I be listening to and learning from. All my notebooks I got over here. I can't give everybody $5 an hour. I mean, a month. It's too many. I didn't make that financial pinnacle. So mine is just $1.99. And honey, if your tail can spare them $2, because you know, YouTube motherfucking ass finna take what, $1.25? I don't know, but you know, I appreciate it. I sure do. But you know, yeah, I want to make it worth it. I want us to learn though, so it really ain't for profit. Because I'm taking care of myself. I can take care of myself. I know how to braid hair. Yeah, I don't cook for everybody and stuff. Shit, I cook if I love you and you hungry, I probably cook, you know. But yeah, I clean. I know how to go over somebody's house shit, and yeah, I can help you clean this up. And yeah, we're gonna get you all together. I done threw away all they bullshit. But you know, I can do them things. I can take care of myself. I appreciate y'all though. If you want to, that's fine. But I just want you to know that I keep it real simple and stuff. I'm not fancy. I ain't finna give you no fancy either. You know, I just want you to know who I am and stuff. Because one day I'm going to just quit talking and I'm just going to sit down and read. But at least, you know, some of those that was here in the beginning, I think y'all call them your day ones. You know, that at least you'll be like, well, hell, I know Face. She ain't even got to say why she here. Because I already know. I'm just saying, you know, that's just me. That's just me. You know, we using this right here for the wrong things. This social media, we using it for the wrong things, y'all. We're not supposed to be using it for all that bullshit. We're not. And I think I did this right here and I did that right there. And now we can read. Yeah. And this is what we read now. We on another book. Yeah. They were her property. I think y'all for giving me these books too. I went and ordered them. I went and ordered a couple of them. They were her property. I ordered medical apartheid. I did order that. And the delectable Negro, because I didn't know white folks was eating my people. I didn't know white folks ate Nat Turner. White folks ate Nat. White folks ate a whole lot of us during them barbecues when they barbecued Willie Brown and John Hartfield too. All of them. They ate them. Yeah, they cut off fingers, toes, nose, their privacies and stuff. They dismembered them. They ate them. I didn't know that shit. No, I'm so, yeah. It's a wonder I ain't just, cussing every word I say. White folks motherfucking asses out. Letting all their asses know, just coming up to them, just walk up to them and, y'all used to eat my ancestors. Yeah, it's a wonder I'm not. Hell, I didn't know about all of this. I didn't know about all of this and stuff, yeah. For me, it hit different. It's different for me. Yeah, I'm not like y'all. I'm not like y'all motherfucking asses, you damn cowards. That's Jesus right there. There's your Jesus right there. You don't see the wood under him? You don't see the wood under him? How the hell you know they didn't have that wood on him? On his back, making him tote it. How the fuck you know that didn't happen? You don't want to believe it though. You don't want to believe it. Do I got anything I can make that little thing out of that they had on Jesus? Do I got anything? Do I got something I can make some planks with to show y'all asses that? How do you know? How white folks didn't say it. Oh, white folks didn't say that happened and stuff. Of course they didn't. They put the wood on Jesus and made your ass think that it was Jesus. Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened. And I know Jesus was a long time before this right here. This right here was 1919. But it was very telling. It was very telling for us. You just don't know. You got to start thinking and stuff. I know the chronological order throws me off a whole lot. The chronological order, how things happened in time, but that don't stop me though. That don't stop me, no. The truth, I'm going to decide my own truth, what it is. And I suggest you do the same. And then after that, if you still want to go to heaven and stuff, go to heaven. Go to heaven. Somebody might come in and free you too. They might come and free you too. I just made sure that our victims that were victimized can leave heaven. Now, brother that wanted to be with that white lady and she ended up killing him. And, he was so proud of her and stuff. And they went out clubbing and stuff. I think she retired his ass. She had to get her initiation in or something. And they had kids and stuff. Yeah, I don't want to say it like that and stuff, but that's what I think happened with all of these, mishappenings and stuff. And she had cleaning her gun after your ass been drinking at the club. You and him into it. You go home and clean your gun. His ass looking in the gun. And it went off and shot him in the head, I guess. But it killed him. Now, when I said you could leave heaven, he couldn't. He couldn't. No, he couldn't leave heaven. That was just for our ancestors that was victimized and dehumanized, dismembered and stuff. That was for them. Don't get it twisted. So for those of us today, if we, decide to go on to heaven and stuff, it might not be nobody that can come later on and say, yeah, you can get up out of heaven. You can get up out of here and go to the afterlife. Because it ain't no back doors. It ain't no back gate. It's one way in and one way out in heaven. They didn't show us two gates. I seen the picture too. The white God and the big old pearly white gates. It's so pretty and the clouds are so fluffy. That's cotton. I'm just saying. That's my truth. That's cotton. Why wouldn't it be? It's cotton. When you get up in there and stuff, that's where you're going to be at. Ain't nobody coming to free you. Not after you get the knowledge. You the one denied the knowledge, ignored the knowledge. So you're going to have to stay in heaven with white folks. And white folks want to be in control in heaven. Yep, I know. Our black Bible, it came after your Bible. Oh, damn, do they really got a Queen James Bible? Queen, not King. Queen James. That's what I seen. I ain't looked it up and stuff, but it was some years ago. I did look it up. I don't know if it was a satire, but I was like, damn. It's fucked up. But yeah, it's just all of it, y'all. It's just a huge fable. It's a huge story. We got to start critiquing these things and stuff for ourselves. And then I'm gonna read. But this right here was our first book. Red Summer was our very first book. I didn't know what to sit down and read. I'd have been reading your ass Helen Keller over there. Everybody would have been crying over that white lady. Helen Keller. Little slaves right there at her feet. And Helen was blind and deaf. And the slaves around and stuff, they would give Helen the little slave to play with or beat up because she was so frustrated. She couldn't communicate because she was blind and she was deaf. She couldn't hear and she couldn't see. So she would just go off on the little kids and stuff, just wild out on them, you know. And yeah, that's what they would do to the slave kids and stuff. They was Helen. Helen had a doll, but she gouged the eyes out and stuff. So I guess they would let her play with the slave kids some. We wouldn't even been crying for the slave babies. We'd have been crying for Helen because Helen can't see. Helen can't hear. So I didn't know what this was going to be like. But honey, the ancestors told me real soon. All them books over there, you get that one right there. And that's why we end up reading Red Summer. We didn't start with the destruction of Black civilization. I don't even have that book no more, I don't think. But we got some books on Africa and stuff. I know that. But they said, Faze, you too late. You the last one here at the fight. I'm just here to get those that's like me, that didn't reach that financial pinnacle, that educational pinnacle, that don't have that personal freedom that we need to get. I guess that's why I'm here for them. Yeah, and you too, if you feel like, I need to learn about where I'm going to. I guess I'm here with you too, so we all can do this. But I just want to say on page 64 in our very first book, I didn't know that man revived the Ku Klux Klan in 1915, William Joseph Simmons. Yes, he did. That motherfucker revived the Ku Klux Klan in 1915. By 1925, they had like 4 million members. Yep, because they got in a new rage. See, it's certain things that tip white America off and they just spaz out. And it's all got to do with us. When we ain't doing right, we want to assert our humanity, our manliness. I'm a man. Yeah, white America don't like that. So I can see it coming already. You can too if you let yourself do it. But this man said that he revived the Ku Klux Klan because he had a spiritual vision. That's what he said. He had a spiritual vision of robed horsemen galloping in the sky. They were galloping in the sky. He revived the Ku Klux Klan because he said he had that spiritual vision of robed horsemen galloping in the sky, followed by a vision of a map of the United States. His damn name popped up in the last book we read. His name, his clan, matter of fact, I think I got that book somewhere. Lynch's in the Loop. We just finished it. His name popped up in that book, in Lynch's in the Loop. And yeah, so it's like they keep up with each other and they tell each other little things. It be time past, but they put things in these books, in all of them. And I'm convinced if I keep reading, I'm going to find something that's going to eventually say, Black people don't go to heaven. Don't go to heaven with white folks. First of all, white folks thought you couldn't even get in heaven. They thought you didn't have no soul. Yeah, white folks literally thought Black people didn't have no soul. Them motherfuckers. They ain't got no soul or no spirit. They ain't got no emotion. They ain't got no conscience. They don't have no relationship with the cosmos. I don't know who the hell they got a relationship with. But no, it ain't the cosmos. No, this is a whole pretense from white folks. That's what I see. Now, if you don't see the same, then you definitely at the wrong place. I'm just saying, for me, this is my truth. What I'm seeing, what I'm reading about and stuff. But I'm like, this ain't no lie. Where the lie at? Then how you gonna tell me how to perceive what I'm reading right here? It ain't no lie. It might mean different from you. You might say, well, Face, they do got a soul and a spirit. They just did them things because they didn't know no better. They just did them things because it just happened. They did these things. White folks in Minnesota right here lynched Isaac, Elmer, and Elias 10 months after this right here. Read some in 1919. I thought at least they ass waited a year. They couldn't even wait a year. They just had to experience it one time. But hell, they wanted to lynch all of the black men that was in the jail because what's her name? Irene Tuscan lied. Her and her boyfriend Jimmy Sullivan over there in Duluth and said that that some black boy raped Irene. Said 6 black men at the carnival in Duluth said that they raped Irene and beat Irene and stuff, attacked Irene. But to see the thing about it, Irene said she immediately fainted. That's they go to white women. Oh, I fainted. She said she fainted. Jimmy said, and they drug her off in some bushes and stuff. 6 big black men. I guess 2 of them had him, holding him, so he was struggling. He couldn't even help Irene. The other 4 must have drug her ass in the bushes and raped her and stuff. Then after it was over with and stuff, they told Irene and Jimmy how to get out of the fairgrounds. That don't even make no motherfucking sense. But then in the question and stuff, they were asking Irene, well, how did they tell you how to get out of the fairgrounds? Because you said you fainted. But Irene, Jimmy couldn't identify him for whatever reason. So Irene had to identify him. But they were like, how you identify him? You fainted, remember? A whole bunch of lies and stuff. But once Jimmy went to work, Irene went home. Caught the subway, the train, or whatever the fuck they was using then. We do got trains here and stuff. But yeah, Irene took her motherfucking ass home. Her mama was sitting up, eating on the couch. Ain't seen no disheveled Irene, no bloody Irene, no nervous wreck. Irene, nothing. Irene, they talk, how you doing, mama? Where dinner at? You cooked and stuff. Irene, you gonna eat? And Irene went up to her bed and went to sleep. It was Jimmy motherfucking ass that went to work that night. I forgot where he worked at. And his daddy worked it there. And he the one told his daddy what happened, the lie. And his daddy got on the phone and there it went. And before you know it, their asses went to the fairgrounds and they got all of the black boys. They wasn't even adult men. They were young black men, young black men. They went and got them. They were young. They went and got them and lynched them. They took them to the jailhouse and stuff and had them in the jailhouse. And the other black men that was in the jail already. But I think it was like 12 men from the carnival that they had got. It was fucked up, y'all. And now, you know, right here in Minnesota and stuff, white folks act like, oh, yeah, we don't want to talk about it. That's what happened. That's what happened. After the lynchings, we don't talk about it no more. We won't talk about it. Don't you talk about it. We won't mention it no more. But, you know, because it was the carnival, the fair, and they said it was the black men at the fair that raped Irene, everybody, all around the surrounding areas, started kicking black people out of their fairs and stuff. You can't work here no more. You can't come on the grounds no more and stuff. So black people stopped working in the fairs and stuff. The carnivals that would come to town and stuff. Black people in Superior, Wisconsin, I guess. I ain't never been there. Black people in Superior had to flee for their lives. They didn't even know why they were running. White folk just came up and just started beating their asses and stuff, telling them, get out, get out, get out. But the black people there didn't know about what was going on in Duluth. So black people just started leaving Superior in masses, just barefoot, ain't got nothing but the baby and the bottle. You know, yeah, ain't got nothing but the baby and the bottle and stuff because they got to go all of a sudden. They didn't find out about the lynchings in Duluth till they got well on the way back to this area right here, back to Minnesota. Then they found out, oh, it was a lynching. It was a lynching in Duluth. It was 3 lynchings in Duluth. That's what happened. But they didn't know. They did not know. We didn't know. We don't know these things and stuff. We just know that some shit went down. But yeah, y'all, you got to start thinking if you really want to be in heaven with white folks. I'm just saying, for black people, and I'm a black woman. So yeah, I can critique these things. You can too. Why not? Hell, it's my people. It's my people. So can't nobody tell me what to do. You can't tell me what to do. Sure, okay, you need to be about my people. If you black, you need to be about your people now. We done been about everybody else our whole life. Our whole life. We ain't trying to point the finger at nobody and you did this and you did that and stuff. But damn it, we need some motherfucking healing. Shit, if it come down to it, it ain't white folks that did it, I'll let you know. But as of now, it's all white folks. It's all white folks that's done harmed and hurt us, that's done indoctrinated your mind. You can't critically think. You can't feel for your people. We hardly can even be nurturers for little black kids today. Why? Because it's been ingrained in us like Tom motherfucking ass to love the white kid, the little white child. Hell, why can't white people love their damn white kids? Shit, why we gotta love they motherfucking ass? Shit, it's enough for me that I ain't wishing them kids no harm. That's about as much as I can do and give for their kids and stuff. All my nurturing, all my love, all my forgiveness, and my inspiration need to go to black kids that look like me. I don't wish no white kids no harm. No, because of what their ancestors did. But when their ass get a little older to understand, I need their ass to know exactly what they white people did. So, because they need healing too, but it ain't going to come from me. Shit, I can't heal their motherfucking ass. I'm just telling y'all to get out. Get the fuck away from white folks. Stop procreating with their asses. We got to look after black babies. It's our duty to have black kids. I don't know who the fuck told you. Shit, we ain't here to have everybody else babies and shit for them. We here to have black babies. Fuck the dumb shit here. Stay by yourself if you can't find a black person to be with. The hell, maybe your ass meant to not be married. Every woman ain't married. Shit, when your spouse passed away or whatever, or left your ass for something, maybe you ain't meant to find nobody else. You're meant to be on your purpose for the rest of your life. Me too. If I don't find no black love, my black king to be with for the rest of my life here, I do this by myself. That's what you got to do. Don't go outside of your race. We ain't supposed to go outside our race. Ain't that what your Bible said? You ain't supposed to be with them anyway. Shit, stop acting like you long. I'm long. I need somebody. Oh, damn. Don't be a fool and a dummy. I'm just saying. Shit. Well, here, they were her property, and this white women as slave owners in the American South. And I'm from the South. Oh, honey, let me let this window up a little bit. Yeah, I'm from the South. Sure will. All they motherfucking asses sitting down there and shit like they ain't done a goddamn thing. Motherfuckers ain't trying to make no atonements. All this time, now you got so many damn people over here in America, ain't nobody even thinking about black kids no more. Making it right. Making it right. During all these strikes and stuff, the school strikes and stuff like that, why ain't somebody say, hey, you know, since we striking for everything else and stuff, we need to strike and get a curriculum so we can start teaching black kids their true history. That's all they ass had to do here. I'm sure they got the books. I'm sure they got the books. Why the hell they ain't done that? For all the, we love you, all the love. Don't nobody love y'all. Don't nobody love us but us. That's why they ain't telling. But want your ass to get out there and help them fight everything Black America. I ain't going to another march. Fuck it. Sure ain't. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you do get back out there marching and stuff, you better be together. And you better be about black people. If you do get back out there marching and shit, whatever gonna happen anyway. Ain't that what y'all already say? Don't nobody know when they time coming. Don't be using that as no excuse to stick up for white America, though. And want to get out there and help they motherfucking asses because they come to loose at the same. They don't know. All they had to do was listen to black people. We ain't been lying to them all this time. They knew exactly what this government right here in America is doing to us. I'm wondering who thought of it, the government or white folks? Common white folks, because it was in racial violence in Kentucky, 1865 to 1940. The white Kentuckians White people in Kentucky, the whole state, they actually told Kentucky, we're not going to stop this right here. This is what Kentucky, the state, told Kentuckians. Y'all going to have to stop doing this right here to black men in this state because we need people to move here. I'm paraphrasing this stuff. But that's what they said. We're going to need y'all to stop burning, lynching, dragging, eating, roasting black men in this state because we need people to move here and bring their businesses here. We want people to have families and, and move to Kentucky. And, and white folks said, no, we ain't doing that shit. Kentuckians. White people said, nah, we're not doing that. We're going to do what we want to do. We're going to keep doing this. How dare you tell us we can't drag black people no more? I don't know how long it took them to decide that they're going to, we'll do it. We'll stop doing it because they told the state of Kentucky, if we stop doing this, you're going to have to lynch. When a black man is accused of an assault, a black woman is accused of an assault, because black women would lynch too. Don't get it twisted now. We would lynch too. But the Kentuckians told the state, when they accused of an assault and stuff, you got to lynch them immediately. Black men didn't even get no trial. A lot of them didn't even get properly identified as the aggressor. White women were just hollering they were raped. Just hollering their ass was raped. White men were just lying that a white woman was raped. All of the newspapers in Kentucky and stuff were posting it all over the country. In the states where the slaves was and stuff, slavery was legal and stuff, the newspapers were posted up in huge letters, lynching at 5 o'clock. Wealthy Negro to be lynched, 12 o'clock noon. All kind of bullshit in all of their newspapers. The newspapers was competing with each other because they were trying to get more people to subscribe to their newspapers. So in the 5 days before the lynching, all 100 their newspapers were selling out by the end of the day. They were making so much money printing them newspapers and stuff, and then they was embellishing it. Oh, she was pregnant. The white woman was pregnant. She was pregnant with twins. She in critical condition and stuff. And see, they right there incite white men and make them angry after all the shit they done did to our women, to our ancestors and stuff. Them bitches feel like, oh, Irene went through some of the worst times. That's what they were saying by Irene over here in Duluth. Irene Tusken, Tusken. Yeah, if that's your clan ancestor and stuff, then yeah, her motherfucking ass is the cause of Elias, Elmer, and Isaac being lynched. Yes, the fuck she is. But they were like, yeah, that's the worst thing that could happen to a woman. Poor Irene. Oh, poor Irene. Is she gonna be okay? I hope she's all right. How could that happen to Irene after all the shit the white man done did? I'm just saying, it don't make no motherfucking sense to me why you want to take yourself to heaven with these people. Why? Why would you want to do that? So yeah, Isaac and them, they not in heaven with their motherfucking asses either. If white folks can't go to heaven, then you better say something. Because black folks ain't going there with them. I don't know. Y'all the one said that God forgive everything, but suicide. God forgive everything but suicide. So I'm like, okay, so if God forgiving Carolyn Bryant and Irene Tusken and all of these men right here that done did these things to Willie Brown, if God forgiving them and they in heaven and Willie in heaven with them, how the fuck that even work? Oh, they don't remember. Okay. You said Willie don't remember what happened on earth, and these men don't remember either, right? God remember, don't he? Hell, your God don't remember? Or the God that's in heaven, whatever his name is, I don't know. He don't remember? Make it make sense now. I mean, don't come with all this intellectual shit right here for heaven. And then when I ask you about the afterlife, why it don't make sense to me, you can't even come up with nothing. Make it make sense. How is God gonna make that justice for our ancestors? How is God gonna make that justice for them? How? It can't. He can't. He cannot make that justice for them. Willie Brown didn't get no justice just to be in heaven. Oh, making it to heaven was the justice. Don't be a fool and a dummy. That's all I'm saying. So let's read. Yeah, this book is by Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. Yeah, we just on chapter 3. These some long chapters now. Let me see what it's gonna look like. I was thinking we could do 2 chapters and try to go on and get through this book because we got a lot of reading to get through and stuff. And this era, I'm in this era right here. I came too late to start back in slavery. I came too late to start back in destruction of a black civilization. I'm pretty much the last one here. We at the end of this. We trying to get the last of our people that, that's going to be some benefit to us. Yeah. I think I'm some benefit to us. I damn sure do. Yeah. And see, there it go again. I damn sure do. Yeah, I be damn. Yeah, it's hard breaking these phrases and stuff. Sometimes I do good with them and sometimes I slip back. You just got to be gentle with yourself. I just want y'all to know. Anytime you catch yourself cursing yourself, I be damn. We ain't damn. We ain't damn. That's white folks is damn. Yeah, white folks is damned. If you really want to, you can come back to earth. Yeah, you can come back to earth or hell, whatever this realm really is, and help your people. And if you do, ask to come back black. If I do come back, I better be black or I'm going right back. Yeah, I better be black if I come back here. So I don't want to come back as a white person or Indian person or Japanese or Chinese. I don't want to come back as none of them other people. I want to come back either as an African over there or as a black American right here. That's just me. Yeah. Mrs. done her own bossing. Yeah, chapter 3. In 1837, 3 years after Maria and Elijah Betts said their vows in Morgan County, Georgia, cotton fever swept over the state, catching up the couple. Ooh-wee. Like countless others, they moved west to try their hand at starting a plantation and establish their new home in Macon County, Alabama. The honeymoon phase of their marriage had barely ended. However, when the Panic of 1837 caused Elijah's, E-L-I-S-H, that's how you spell his name. I said Elisha, but I think it's Elijah because he's the man. So Elijah, it makes sense to me. Yeah, I think we would spell it E-L-I-J-A-H. But see, the spelling is different, but I think it's still Elijah. The honeymoon phase of their marriage had barely ended, however, when the Panic of 1837 caused Elijah's mercantile business to fail. He became heavily indebted and lost much of what he owned. Just when he was down on his luck and needed Maria's support the most, he saw a side of his wife that surprised him. As he reeled from his pecuniary losses, Maria did not seem to sympathize with him as she should. Furthermore, she seemed unwilling to help him rebound financially. To rebound back financially. What the hell? Over the next 9 years of their marriage, the Bettses never lived agreeably together. And by 1846, Maria and Elijah had reached a crisis. Much of the discord between them had to do with the fact that Maria owned slaves in her own right and possessed the legal authority to decide what to do with them. This is what we've been reading about. White people gave black slaves to their white daughters sometime when they were infants, 3 weeks old, 3 months old. I'm gonna give you this little black slave right here to take care of you for life. And then the babies too that came along that slave had and stuff. And so white women was tired of white men taking their property, selling their slaves when they get in debt. They were selling their slaves when they needed money and stuff. They had full control over. So white women started standing up and putting in clauses and stuff that these is my slaves. I don't care what happened. You can't whoop them. You can't beat them. You can't mistreat them. And you can't sell them. So that's why he upset. Because when he lost everything, Maria ass was supposed to sell some of them slaves. But see, she didn't. White folks, yeah. We thought that white women was just a bystander. And the white man was doing all this. Now the white woman was in control. The white woman was in control of the slaves and stuff. So that's why he was mad at her. She kept her slaves and stuff. And it said in the last chapter that the lady that had the slaves and stuff, she treated her slaves good. She didn't whip them. She didn't let her husband whip them. He didn't sell them and stuff. They said she dressed them nice. They made sure they ate 3 times a day, even though she worked their ass from sun up to sundown, They might have not been in the field, but their ass was polishing that wood and stuff in the big house and, running water or whatever they had them doing. But, yeah, she considered herself a good missus. So But that's why he upset and stuff. And white folks still do that today. They pass on property and assets and land and money and wealth and jewelry and stuff to each other, but they can't pass on the main thing that they really crave, which is black people, black bodies. And they've been restraining it. See, white folks been restraining all this rage for decades now. Yeah, for decades now. I would say at least since the Black Panthers now. Since the Black Panthers name and stuff, because we just soon was just, it's like we threw up our hands like, fuck it, we done. Fuck it, we done. We just do what they want to do. So, white folks was able to get into that comfortness because we were keeping the peace for them. But we can't keep the peace no more. We can't sacrifice our peace for their motherfucking ass no more. Bring it on, goddammit. Bring it on. You're going to have to detox yourself so you can get in alignment with the cosmos and the ecology. I already done mentioned it and stuff. It's going to happen. What's going to happen, going to happen. Don't worry, just be wary. So let's read. Much of the discord had to do with the fact that Maria owned slaves in her own right and possessed the legal authority to decide what to do with them. Almost a decade before Maria married Elijah, and while she was married to and separated from her first husband, Ambrose Nelson, her father, Moses Walker, had hired a lawyer to draw up a declaration of intention that stipulated three things. First, any property that Moses might give to Maria during his lifetime or at the time of his death was to be hers alone. Hers. No matter who she married. This would be the case whether she was a femme covert or not. And it went into explaining that the femme covert, in the other chapter stuff. Moses Walker also stipulated that all the property he conveyed to her must be completely free from the marital right of her then present or future husband. He made sure wasn't no husband getting no slave. Yeah, because the white men, that some of them were poor. White men were moving from little poor towns with nothing and going up where the slaves, the women that had the slaves and stuff, and making themselves look like they was all this and they come from money and stuff, knowing they didn't have a damn dime or a dollar to their name. So when the woman married him and she didn't know no better and stuff, he got all her property and stuff. It became his too. That's why they started doing that. It's a whole diabolical scheme. But then in the whole scheme of things, it's like the white man was like, okay, we'll make it seem like you, Maria. You didn't have nothing to do with all the harshness and the brutality that was done to the slaves and stuff. That's why we see it in our mind's eye that it was only the white men doing these things. But no, it was the white woman. Yeah, they came to that agreement, always trying to protect her motherfucking ass. Always. Shit, just like today. I'm just saying, First, any property that Moses might give to Maria during his lifetime or at the time of his death was to be hers alone. This would be the case whether she was a female covert or not. Moses Walker also stipulated that all the property he conveyed to her must be completely free from the marital right of her then present or future husband. Furthermore, the document empowered Maria to dispose of her property by will if she died intestate, intestate. The property would descend to her children rather than to her husband. His ass still can't get it. And at the same time, he drew up the declaration of intention. Maria's father gave her 3 of his slaves. He later gave her 3 more of his slaves. As Maria prepared to marry Elijah on September the 18th, 1834, she told him about her father's declaration of intention. She made sure that he understood the limits would be placed on him. She made sure that he understood the limits it would place upon his marital rights, and he agreed that she might hold as her separate estate the property she then had or might afterwards get of her husband, of her father. She then reiterated the terms of the legal document at their wedding reception. I guess he thought that when they got on hard times, she would, of her own free will, sell some slaves to get them out of debt. But oh no, Maria was like, hell no, I'm keeping my slaves. I don't give a damn what happened. There were white women. They were like, they didn't give a damn what happened. They keeping their slaves. Because white women didn't want to do nothing for themselves. They didn't want to clean for themselves, wash their ass, feed their baby, clean the house, go pick the peas out. And white folk didn't want to do nothing. They didn't want to dust. They didn't want to polish the wood or nothing. They sat on their motherfucking asses, and little black kids was fanning their asses because they said, oh, it's so fake. It's so hot outside. You know, so the white woman was like, shit, she ain't giving up her slaves and stuff. Yep. I'm just saying, that's what I get out of it and stuff. Elijah might be willing to recognize Maria's property rights, but he still expected to take charge of her slaves. Maria would have none of that. She wasn't having that shit. No. She refused to let Elijah exercise mastery over them, at least not the kind he had in mind. Once they settled into their new home in Alabama, Maria was rarely pleased with Elijah's treatment of her slaves. According to their neighbor, Charles C. Mills, Elijah frequently complained about his wife and said that much of their misunderstanding grew out of jealousy on her part of his treatment of the Negroes given her by her father. Elijah confessed to Mills that he could never chastise one of them without his wife's manifesting feeling and discontentment. Elijah was putting it mildly. Yeah, without her manifesting feeling and discontentment. Oh, shit. Yeah, if her ass had any feeling, she would have freed him. She didn't have no feeling for them and stuff. She was just worried that his ass was going to hurt him or kill him, beat him so bad, whip him so bad that they'll die on her. Then her ass got to take care of herself. That's what the feeling was, y'all. In his conversations with Mills, Elijah admitted that Maria was an excellent housekeeper, though she was inclined to be self-willed and not obedient to his wishes. Yeah, telling the slaves what to do. That ain't no housekeeper shit. That's a missus. That is not no housekeeper. In her own talks with Mills, Maria accepted her husband's characterization of her disposition and tactfully accepted his other statements about her, but countered that Elijah had always sought to control her too much in her domestic concerns. That's what it say, domestic, D-O-M-E-S-T-I-C-K. I ain't never heard the word either, even though she was perfectly capable of managing them by herself. Yeah, he always tried to control her in her domestic concerns, even though she was perfectly capable of managing them by herself. By 1846, Elijah had decided that nothing could induce him to return to his wife or to live with her ass again. And acting on those sentiments, he abandoned Maria and moved to Louisiana. Yep. In light of Elijah's abandonment, his looming debts, and the threat of his creditors, Maria filed lawsuit against her husband and his creditors, requesting a divorce from Elijah, alimony for her support, and an injunction to prevent any of their asses from seizing and selling her separate property. Because you know of the creditors that'll come and take the slaves if the husband owes some money and stuff. Yeah, she sued all their asses. Maria said she wasn't giving up none of her slaves. She wasn't giving up nobody, and she didn't. Maria and Elijah had clearly approached their marriage with different ideas about how their relationship would work, but the most critical differences between them centered upon the way Maria expected Elijah and others to treat her slaves and what methods of slave discipline and management she would allow those individuals to employ. Now, she might let him, not feed them, but I guess she wouldn't let them whip them, lash them, that type of thing right there. She envisioned a marriage in which her husband would grant her the liberty to express herself freely, to manage her household, and to determine how he and others would deal with the enslaved people she owned. And as Elijah's candid statements to his neighbors show, he entered the marriage anticipating the opposite. Their differing expectations, especially concerning the management and discipline of Maria's slaves, wreaked havoc in the Betsy's marriage and ultimately drove Elijah to abandon Maria. But despite the cost, Maria stood firm in her resolve. Oh, hell, like she was a damn hero or something. Like her ass is something to be proud of. Maria's views about marriage and her conduct toward Elijah were the likely outcome of being raised by parents, particularly a father, who nurtured her independence and ensured that she would continue to exercise a certain legal and economic autonomy during her marriage and throughout her lifetime. So see, the same way they bred it into them little girls' minds, these your slaves. You keep them forever. Don't you ever let nobody take your slave, beat your slave, lash your slave till your slave ain't no good for you. Don't you let nobody ever do your slave like that. That's what she was raised up with. That's kind of like white folks that indoctrinating the mixed kids and stuff. When they actually tell them, well, for 3 generations, we're gonna have to teach these mixed kids to breed with white people so we can wipe out the black race of that child right there. And it happens. You can do that. I don't know when they're gonna start doing it here. Probably already have. I'm just saying. Yeah. So yeah, they got married and stuff, but Elijah felt like at some point in time he could get some control over Maria and her slaves. Some of the white men beat their wives. And she had to. I guess she would fall in love with him and let him beat her ass and stuff, And when he needs to sell some slaves, all he got to do is beat her up. And she'll go down there and sign the papers and stuff, even though she knew her daddy had them stipulations that nobody could make her sell her slaves. She fell in love with him, and he controlled her through violence and stuff. So when his ass went out gambling or whatever the fuck, and he needed money, then she would go and just sign him over. But Maria was like, no, we ain't doing none of that. I'm not doing none of that. Maria was different on that point right there, but that's all that her ass was. Even still, while Walker's declaration of intention and his subsequent deeds of gift gave Maria legal title to slaves, secured her separate property rights, and preserved her authority as a slave owner, Maria was ultimately responsible for deciding whether to exercise those rights and powers. It was her choice whether to delegate her powers to her husband or an overseer, to refuse to grant them any power at all, or to curtail or rescind any particular right of control at any time. When the men around her overstepped the bounds of what she considered their authority, she routinely intervened and reminded them that the power they exercised ultimately belonged to her, and that this authority was grounded in her slave ownership. They were her slaves. Yep. So see, we've been seeing it wrong all along here. Both of their asses were slave drivers. Yep. As Elijah's longtime acquaintance and former overseer, Abram Greeson, Greeson, recalled Maria was very cross and disagreeable with me and meddled with the outdoor business too much. He talking about the niggas in the field slaves. Said she meddled with the outdoor business too much. What Elijah described as Maria's feeling and discontent, and what Abram Greeson called her meddling, were really the manifestations of far more than moodiness. During those moments when she freely expressed her feelings about their conduct toward her slaves, she was making her husband and Greeson aware of her particular vision of slave mastery. Maria never described how she herself dealt with the slaves she owned, and the legal record gives no specific details about the kinds of chastisement Elijah used or how Abram treated Maria's slaves in the fields. But her response to their treatment makes it clear that she had conflicting ideas about proper methods of slave mastery, and as she observed and evaluated Elijah's and Greeson's disciplinary and management techniques, she determined that they were doing things the wrong way for her. Despite their brief separation, Maria and Elijah Betts remained married and lived in the same household for more than 2 decades. During that time, Maria continued to own separate property, and her estate grew significantly. In 1950, Maria owned 8 slaves, 100 acres of improved land, a farm worth $400, farming implements and machinery valued at $100, and livestock with an estimated value of $550. 10 years later, Maria, her personal estate was worth $16,000. Her slave holdings had doubled to 16, and she owned 320 acres of improved and unimproved land and livestock worth $750. According to the censuses taken in these 2 decades, Elijah possessed no personal or real property to speak of. Had Maria relinquished control of her property to Elijah, he might well have treated the enslaved people she owned in ways that diminished their value and squandered her considerable assets. It would seem that her caution was well founded. The conflicts that arose between Maria and Elijah Betts over matters largely related to slave mastery bedeviled other households in the South. This was especially true in cases where husband and wives each owned personal slaves, or when women owned slaves over which their husbands had no legal authority. Formerly enslaved people routinely reflected upon encounters between slave-owning women, their spouses, their employers, their employees, and others. Although they rarely, if ever, used the term master to describe their female owners, formerly enslaved witnesses frequently characterized their mistresses as effective managers and disciplinarians and described their behavior with the same terms they used for slave-holding men. Harriet Collins spoke of her mistress as a powerful manager who was so good. If and you work and do like she tell you. Such a statement could be taken as referring simply to household management, but Collins also spoke of how her mistress managed her slaves beyond the household. Her mistress, recalled Collins, would go around the quarters to see that all was all right each evening and was a powerful good nurse to boot. Collins' female owner, in fact, did more than a master. She assumed the responsibilities that mistresses, masters, and plantation overseers typically handled. Formerly enslaved people also remembered their female owners as powerful disciplinarians who used a variety of techniques that resembled those of male slave owners. Addie Gill, Addygill. Addie Gill was enslaved in Mill Burney, North Carolina, and she recalled that her mistress, Louise Crenshaw, that's Krenshaw, not Crenshaw. Louise Crenshaw done the whooping on Mr. Crenshaw's plantation, and she was mighty rough at times. And as we shall see, other enslaved men and women recall mistresses who meted out calculated, systematic, and rationalized violence and discipline, not as master subordinates and surrogates, but as slave owners in their own right, who possess the authority to do so. But in their testimony, so yeah, you can see a white woman with her slaves and stuff, and she wouldn't let nobody else lash them, but she would get her ass out there and she would lash their asses and stuff. Now, the master, he probably can't lash them 20 and 30 times. She ain't gonna let him do that. She gonna get herself out there and she gonna lash him 15 or 20 times. And I mean, it's still gonna hurt. It's slashing that whip on them. Hell, it still hurt. It's still inhumane. Just because she do it a few less times and stuff, let them go if you got some feeling. Don't make it seem like she all right because she didn't let him hurt him. Hell, her ass wasn't right either. I'm just saying she wasn't right either, y'all. All right, let's read. Yeah, I just had to say it. But in their testimony, formerly enslaved people emphasized that mastery did not always involve brute strength and physically violent methods of discipline. The typically male slaveholders who submitted commentary to the South's most widely circulating agricultural journals, such as Debo's Review and the Southern Planter, and that's Debows. Debo's Review and the Southern Planter generally agreed that the most skilled slave masters could command submission without resorting to brutality. By this argument, white women could also be masters of slaves without resorting to brutal methods of control. Yeah, they didn't have to be so brutal. They just loved it. They loved it. They craved it. It was like a release for them. You know, I don't know if they just going up there licking on black people as they were whipping them and the blood just running and stuff. Yet, despite the recollections of formerly enslaved people concerning female owners who made sure they did their work, and despite contemporary recognition of white women as slave owners in their own right within Southern communities and by courts, Historians have contended that white women could not be true masters of slaves. They could be masterful, but they did not possess the strength or the power to make a servile class submit to their will. Protecting white folks. White women always got to protect the white woman. According to the historian Elizabeth Fox Genovese. Elizabeth Fox Genovese. That's Genovese. Genovese. I'll just say Genovese. Probably like Geneva. White women could not exercise mastery of their own slaves, much less contribute to the control of the slaves in their communities because the law, not to mention the social emphasis placed on male governance of the household and its members, the law discouraged women from managing slaves. These folks are something else. These social and legal impediments, she contends, sharply limited the practical and psychological effectiveness of slave-holding women's discipline. Furthermore, enslaved people associated physical violence and punishment with white men, be they slave owners or overseers, a situation that undercut any attempts by white women to acquire mastery over their slaves. A white woman, even if she owned slaves, was no master. Yet, Fox Genovese admits that as slaves would have been the first to insist, and as both male and female slaveholders well knew, mistresses could very well be the devil. A mean mistress stood second to no master in her cruelty, although her strength was less. See, I just said it. A mean mistress stood second to no master. That's what it say right there. Yep, it wasn't no master. Yeah, she wasn't second to none. Not in her cruelty. Even though her strength was less than a man. Now we know that men are naturally, generally, mostly, supposed to be stronger than women. Most of them. But that don't mean that, she came second to them. Oh, no. No, she didn't. That's what we thought. That was a lie, y'all. This was particularly characteristic of white women's relationships with enslaved women in their household. For on the grounds of physical strength, they were less likely than men to kill them. Some historians contest the idea that women could not manage or discipline enslaved people effectively. However, they too differentiate between white women and white men's domination of enslaved people. William Foster, for example, contends that slave-owning women developed and engaged in a uniquely female form of mastery, in which they interacted with and disciplined enslaved people as they would their own children. But if we look carefully at slave-owning women's management styles, we find that these differed little from those used by slave-holding men, and they rarely treated enslaved people like their children. I know that's right. Enslaved and formerly enslaved people recalled the ways their female owners exercised authority over them. They made it clear that white women did not subordinate their authority to white men, nor did they confine themselves to operating at the mid-levels of power in Foster's phrase. Their status as slave owners granted them access to a community that was predicated upon the ownership of human beings and afforded them rights they did not possess in other realms of their lives. White women embraced their role within this community, assumed positions of power over slaves within and outside of their household. Oh, honey, they were controlling their own slaves and yours. Sure was. And they challenged anyone who attempted to infringe upon that power. And local, state, and federal courts recognized, upheld, and protected them when they did so. Mastery was an objective that male and female slave owners and their delegates aimed to acquire through techniques ranging from kindness to brutality. Their goal was to compel enslaved people to submit to their will and work efficiently and profitably. The system was malleable, malleable. That's how you take, like you get some Play-Doh, and you know how you can make that Play-Doh and you can malley it into whatever shape you want it to be, like that right there. The system was malleable because it had to be. One strategy might be effective with one enslaved person, yet ineffective with another. Even the specific circumstances under which an owner compelled an enslaved person to work, such as trying to force recently sold, relocated, or traumatized enslaved people to labor after being separated from their homes and loved ones, could affect the management and disciplinary techniques a slave owner used. So that's like, remember in Roots, when they got Kunta and he kept trying to run away and stuff, and they actually had to cut his foot off because he kept trying to escape in the movie Roots. Well, another slave, after you whipped them one time, they probably stopped trying to get away. They probably stopped because Kunta was just taking out running. Kunta was just trying to get the hell away. Now another slave, that probably after one lashing, they won't try that no more. He coming, let him go on by. That's why I said they had to use different strategies and stuff. Yeah. And if he did try to get away again, I bet you he waited till the time was right to try to get away again. They just had to use different strategies and stuff. Whether slave owners turned out to be effective managers of the enslaved people they owned depended on the broader communal, legislative, and judicial recognition of their power over the enslaved and a collective willingness to protect that power when it was called into question or when others threatened it. Southern communities, lawmakers, and courts recognize slave-owning women as individuals able to acquire and exercise mastery over enslaved people, as is evident from laws passed throughout the South. Laws dating back to the colonial period routinely recognize that mistresses owned enslaved people in their own right, and these same laws acknowledge the fact that these women were capable of exercising mastery over the enslaved people they owned. In fact, Southern laws held that mistresses accountable that the mistresses accountable for their slaves' misconduct. Yep. In fact, Southern laws held the mistresses accountable for their slaves' misconduct. For example, when an enslaved person in Louisiana was found guilty of revolting or of a plot to revolt against his or her mistress, or of willfully and maliciously striking his or her mistress or the child or children of his or her mistress, or any white overseer appointed by his or her owner to superintend said owner's slaves, so as to cause a confusion or shedding of blood. Damn. Mistresses were required to report these acts to the state. If a mistress were to willfully and intentionally neglect to give information against or refuse to give up her slave or slaves that struck and drew blood from another white person, if she decides she wasn't going to do that, the said mistress shall, upon conviction thereof, forfeit and pay the sum of $500, one half of which shall be given to the informer or the informers, people that's going to tell on them, and the other half to and for the parish in which the offense shall have been committed, and in prison until the same is paid. Furthermore, Southern laws made it clear that legislators expected mistresses to discipline the enslaved people they own, whether by proxy or by their own hand. In South Carolina, for example, if an enslaved person ran away for a period of 20 days or more, masters and mistresses were required to publicly and severely administer up to 40 lashes with the whip for the first offense. And if a slave owner failed to do so, the local constable would do it at the owner's expense. With each offense, the punishment became more brutal, eventually calling for branding, dismemberment, and after the fifth offense, death. Trying to run away, death. With each offense, the punishment became more brutal, eventually calling for branding, dismemberment, and after the fifth offense, death. While legislators probably saw this intensified brutality as a deterrent for enslaved people who hope to escape bondage, these punishments also served to compel slave owners to comply with state law. An enslaved person's value would diminish with each punishment and pair with the state's decision to impose greater fines upon masters and mistresses for failing to punish their slaves after subsequent offenses. Those owners had good reason to acquiesce. Acquiesce. I think I said it right. The management of Negroes advice columns that appeared in agricultural journals such as Debo's Review and the Southern Planter suggest that many Southern white men coveted the role of slave master and yearned to rule over enslaved people, even those who was not their own. But this was not always the case. Rosalie Calvert found that her husband had no interest in being a master, and she had to assume the role herself. In 1818 and 1819, Calvert wrote several letters to her sister Isabel, complaining about her husband's laziness and indifference to all the matters related to plantation operations and slave management. Exasperated by all the work she had to do, she told her sister that her husband conducted himself as if he were not the master, not giving any instructions, not worrying about anything. As she became more heavily encumbered by the tasks that needed to be completed within and around her household, Rosalie Calvert noticed how little her husband did. She confessed to Isabel, "My husband takes nothing regarding the household or the servants. I must manage everything. All the arrangements fall on me." But men who conducted themselves like Calvert's husbands occupied only one extreme on the behavioral spectrum. Far from frequently, spouses and overseers of slave-owning women, as well as public officials such as patrollers, gravitated toward the opposing end of this continuum. They often went too far when disciplining these women slaves, and they challenged these women's authority to say how the enslaved people they owned would be managed or disciplined. In response, many women asserted their rights as property holders and used their legal authority as such to dictate how their husband and overseers might treat their slaves, like Maria did. They thereby protected the human beings they owned from the physical and psychic trauma brought on by the brutality of others. And they preserved the monetary value of the enslaved people they owned. Slave-owning women deemed it necessary to set parameters and to establish rules for other people, including their husbands, who might deal with their slaves. When these individuals did not appreciate or respect the boundaries slave-owning women set, these women found ways to enforce their decisions, and their examples offer unparalleled views of how married women understood, articulated, and asserted their power as slave owners and masters. Yes, honey. White women finna be pissed at white men because Donald Trump done rolled back segregation and stuff. Why? That's why white women were saying they coming up in the colored only bathroom. That's what they saying. I seen some videos today. White women were like, no, we got to find out how to infiltrate. We gonna get up in them colored only bathrooms. We got to get up in them colored only spaces, black only. We got to get up in there. Yeah. How dare you take our, that's how they feeling. That's how they fucking feeling. They gonna make y'all ass think, oh, we miss y'all so much. We love you. We miss y'all so much. We've been together a long time. Now they miss your ass because they don't know what you're doing. That's what it is. Shortly after Mary Homer married William Johnson, she made one thing clear. She would not tolerate him abusing the slaves that belonged to her, property that she had received from her father. According to her former slave, Bill Homer, Mary insisted that the treatment from the new master am just like from the old master. Mary held a vision of slave ownership and management that differed from her husband's. Bill's memory suggests that his father's management style heavily influenced her own and helped determine the kind of relationship she would allow her husband to have toward her property. More important, her husband accepted and abided by her decisions when it came to her slaves. Mary's insistence that her husband refrain from abuse did not apply to the slaves he owned. However, Bill remembered Mary telling her husband, if you must abuse the nigger, abuse your own. That's what he remembered Mary telling her husband. If you must abuse the nigger, abuse your own. Long after they married, slave-owning women continued to demarcate and enforce, in word and in deed, the boundaries of their husband's authority over their slaves. Generally, they based their own authority on their own ownership of the enslaved people in question. Frances Gray, a scuba. What did it say? A scuba. Scooba. Mississippi woman who owned Lucy Galloway and her family. Ooh, that was close to my daddy last name. Yeah, but it's Lucy Galloway and her family didn't allow nobody to mistreat her slave because they was her property and her living, and she won't going to allow nobody to whoop them. Yeah, I'm trying to get used to to it too. Let me try it again. Lucy Galloway. Okay, let me start back. Generally, they base their own authority on their own ownership of the enslaved people in question. Frances Gray, a Scuba, Mississippi woman who owned Lucy Galloway and her family, didn't allow nobody to mistreat her slaves because they was her property and her living, and she won't let now nobody to whoop. Yeah. Sarah Davis Parnell went further. She owned a number of slaves, including Henry and Priscilla Parnell. And her husband would often beat them unmercifully when he was drunk. Whenever she caught him doing it, she would come right out there and stop him. She would say, I didn't come all the way here from North Carolina to have my niggers beat up for nothing. She might even grab her husband's whip mid-strike. While he was striking, she might even grab that whip. A woman's decision to intervene in a beating, even at the risk of her own safety, might have been an expression between her benevolence toward the enslaved people she owned. But it might equally have been an expression of her concern for her property interests and desire to preserve the value of her holdings. I told you that's why she would get involved. Because she thought he gonna beat her slaves so bad, they ain't gonna be no use for her. She thought they would beat the slaves so bad that it would kill them. She didn't jump in and say, oh, you stop doing that because it's inhumane. She didn't jump in there and say, you stop doing that because I feel all the pain from all the lashes and stuff. That's not why she would stop. The white women stop the white men. They stop the white men because, hey, if you kill my slave, hell, who else gonna take care of me? That was the mentality of white women. And that's kind of like their mentality today. Yeah, I know they seem like they're holding their own, but they ain't. They holding their own because they hoping that it's a day soon that things will be able to, benefit them again. Yeah, I know it's fucked up to me. The whole thing is. But let's read. Slave-owning women were equally adamant about making clear what constituted acceptable slave discipline to the men they employed as overseers. Ben Horry, Horry, recalled that when anybody steal rice and the overseers beat them, his own Miss Bessie would cry and say, let them have rice, my nigger. One Carradine, Carrydine, it's capitalized. It looks like it's a name. Oh, yeah. One Carradine, the overseer on the plantation where Rebecca Brown Hill grew up, was determined to whip her parents. When her mistress found out, she asked Carradine to come see her so they could talk it over. At the conclusion of their meeting, she told Hill's parents to give Mr. Carradine his breakfast and let him go. Hill recalled that her parents never got no whipping after that talk. The process of talking it over usually implies negotiation and compromise between equals. But Hill described this conversation as orders passed from employer to employee. And Hill's mistress was in the position of power. And as her employee, Carradine was obliged to obey. Notwithstanding such agreements, overseers constantly overstepped the bounds of their authority, and their female employers retaliated by firing them or filing a legal suit against them. In 1826, James A. Williams served as Lucy Pierce's overseer on her plantation, Tunica, in West Feliciana, Louisiana. Yeah. She was an absentee owner who lived on a plantation approximately 25 or 30 miles away. Peary tasked Williams with managing her slaves and tending to the cultivation of her crops. In Peary's estimation, Williams dramatically exceeded his authority. He and a neighbor, Arthur Adams, shot 2 of her slaves and illegally, cruelly, unusually, and unnecessarily beat and whipped another one of them. One of the men Williams shot eventually died of his wounds. But the other 2 men sustained serious injuries. In addition, Williams was reportedly so brutal toward Peary's slaves that some of them ran away. Yep. Peary not only fired Williams, she filed an order of trespass against him and Adams and sought compensation for the slaves she lost. In Adams' answer to Peary's allegations and suit, he called her master into question. He argued that all the charges she lodged against him stemmed from the fact that her slaves were badly fed and provided for. He gonna blame it on her. And he suspected them of stealing his cattle to augment their meager diets. A witness who testified on Peary's behalf said that she had numerous hogs and cattle on her plantation, although he did not say that she gave any of the meat to her slaves. In the end, the court granted Peary's request. Perhaps it goes without saying that white women acted within their purview when they determined how their employees would treat the enslaved people they own, whether through letters, termination of employment, or lawsuits to recoup the value of slaves lost at the overseer's hands. Slave-owning women made it clear that the men in their employ merely exercised authority on their behalf, and they, the mistresses, could rescind that power at any time. Mistresses also sought to establish the parameters of proper conduct for men whom the state empowered to punish their slaves. A woman named Mrs. Harris, for example. She hired out an enslaved boy she owned to various men in her community. On one occasion, the boy clashed with the man who had hired him, and during their altercation, the boy knocked his employer upside the head. The injured man summoned the community squire and constable, and the 2 men stripped the boy, and the squire whipped him. The boy began to make so much noise that Mrs. Harris heard him, came out and told the squire to turn him loose. She threatened to kill the squire if he struck her slave one more time, and she showed him her gun. Appalled by her challenge to his authority, the squire reminded her that they were acting within the law. Mrs. Harris retorted that she did not care nothing about the law and warned the squire not to hit her slave again. In the face of her defiance, the men saw no choice but to comply. They released the boy. This standoff between the neighborhood squire and Mrs. Harris suggests that communal custom may have shaped the operation of law at the local level far more than the state did, a phenomenon that the historian Laura Edwards refers to as legal localism. The larger community may have subscribed to certain forms of discipline that constrain the squire's power to inflict punishment under certain circumstances. Perhaps the squire overstepped those boundaries, and he recognized that Mrs. Harris' neighbors and friends would be more inclined to support her than him. No matter the underlying reason, he ultimately chose to respect her authority and her wishes. That's the white woman. And she's so protected. She's so protected. I'm glad we're reading this book on her motherfucking ass so you can see who the fuck she really been all this time. Not all slave-owning women sought to protect the enslaved people they own from punishment, though. Some simply wanted to ensure that their delegates delivered the discipline they themselves thought was fair. Mrs. Rankin, Rankin, the married woman who owned F.H. Brown's mother, also owned all the enslaved people in her household. According to Brown, she would not permit her overseer to discipline the enslaved females she owned, but she did allow him to whip her male slaves now. Even then, he was permitted to do so only in her presence so that she could see that it wasn't brutal. Brown recalls that when an overseer got rough, she would fire him. Peggy Sibbert, Sybert, similarly fired the overseer who disobeyed her instructions about meting out discipline. Her slave, Ari Benz, Arribins, recounted how Silbert handled the patrollers who insisted upon whipping Ben's brother, whom they captured after he left the plantation without a pass. Initially, Silbert angrily refused to allow the patrollers to beat him. After they insisted upon doing so, however, she stated she would allow them to punish him only if she could watch and decide when they had punished him enough. So they agreed to her terms. After they whipped Ben's brother 3 times, Silbert demanded that they stop, and they did. White men were not the only members of Southern communities who challenged or attempted to ignore slave-owning women's power and control over their slaves. Other women did too. Oh, shit. Told you. When Elizabeth Campbell was 15, her mistress gave her to her daughter Eva, who subsequently hired her out to another woman who operated a local boarding house. While in this woman's employ, Campbell was tasked with transporting food from the kitchen into the main part of the establishment. One day she tripped and fell and dropped the tray, scattering the food across the ground. The boarding house operator grabbed a butcher knife and struck Campbell in the head with the blade. Bloody, wounded, and distraught, Campbell ran back to her mistress. After seeing Campbell's condition, Eva wrote a letter to the woman notifying her that Campbell was her slave, whom she had inherited from her mother, that she would not tolerate Campbell's being brutally treated, and that therefore she would no longer permit Campbell to work for the boarding house keeper. The circumstances surrounding the brutal assault of Ellen Campbell forced Eva to assert her power as a slave owner. Both Eva and the female boarding house operator possessed and exercised control over Campbell, one as the owner and the other one as the employer. But their systems of slave discipline and management were strikingly different. Campbell spoke highly of her mistress and her mistress's family, claiming that her mistress's father rarely mistreated his slaves and that her mistress adopted a similar system of slave management. She found herself in the middle of a conflict between her mistress and the boarding house operator, but ultimately her legal owner determined how she would be treated, who would control her, and what disciplinary methods they could reasonably employ. The term possessed might suggest that Southern law accorded the powers of slave master equally to a slave owner and an individual who hired an enslaved person. However, possession and the power associated with it did not apply equally to both parties in the eyes of the law. Possession was only temporarily vested in slave hirers, and it ended as soon as the terms of hire did. Furthermore, the contracts drawn up between the slave owner and the slave hirer might delineate acceptable forms of discipline and management. And if hirers violated the terms of those contracts, the owners of the enslaved people could terminate the agreement and take their slaves out of the hirer's possession. When enslaved people suffered injury or death due to the hirer's actions, slave owners had legal recourse and could sue hirers and seek damages in court. When a female slave owner hired white servants to work alongside the enslaved people she owned, her management style could take a surprising turn. When Joe High, Higa, when Joe High was a young boy, he strolled through a potato patch, dug a spud out of the ground, and asked a white woman who served as his mistress's cook to prepare for him to eat. The woman marched the boy and the potato to his owner, Clara Griffin, and accused him of stealing it, telling Griffin, "Look here, missus, Joe has been stealing taters. Here's the tater he stole." She probably expected a different response from the one she received. Instead of punishing Joe High, Griffin replied, "Joe belongs to me. That tater belongs to me. Take it back and cook it for him." In approaching her employer and accusing the boy of theft, this white servant was claiming a distinction between herself and the slaves who worked alongside her. Griffin's response to her actions suggested that Griffin may have thought the cook was placing herself on terms of equality with her mistress, and she found it necessary to reinforce the class and power distinctions between them. Like, oh no, your ass ain't on my level. I control your ass too. That's my potato. That's my slave. You my employee. Go cook that damn potato for him. Yeah, so that's how the missus was. Yeah, they were very crafty. In the end, such differences tilted the outcome of the incident in Joe Hyde's favor. He got his potato. The similarities between men and women's systems of management become clearer through the testimony of formerly enslaved people. According to Henry Watson, his mistress had been brought up in Louisiana and had witnessed punishment all her life and had become hardened to it. He had seen her perpetrate some of the most cruel acts that a human being could. Yet I never saw her in a passion when she was inflicting punishment. Cecilia Chapel recalled that her mistress would give her slaves some work to do, so she would kind of get over her mad spell, for she whooped us. This was not feminine weakness. Southern agricultural journals carried advice from slave-owning men to other slave-owning men, urging them to avoid getting overexcited, remain dispassionate and detached, and ensure that they never inflicted punishment on the slaves in anger. One Southern Carolina planter went so far as to suggest that masters allow 24 hours to lapse between the discovery of the offense and the punishment. That way they'll have time to cool off. They won't beat them to death. They'll have a little time to cool off. Other men echoed his advice when they suggested that punishment should never be administered while in a passion. And so far from indicating a womanly or ladylike gentleness, such calmness could accompany vicious cruelty. Such calmness could accompany vicious cruelty. Henry Watson proclaimed to his mistress, she seemed to take delight in torturing. In fact, she made it a pastime. She inspired everyone about her with terror. Yes, she inspired everyone about her with terror. The practice of waiting to become calm before punishing a slave was not a matter of gender, but of good slave management. Similarly, when slave-owning women delegated the task of discipline to others, typically men, it was not an indication of their discomfort as women with the brutality that so often characterized slave mastery, as some historians have claimed. According to the legal historian Ariella Gross, slave-owning men also avoided administering whippings themselves, leaving the task to an overseer or to another. Sometimes they had the slave whoop each other, or the overseer. Both owners and hirers sometimes sent slaves to the county jail or to the Charleston workhouse, for example, to be whipped for a fee rather than soiling themselves and their clothing with blood. But beyond their aversion to blood-stained clothing, slave-owning men tried to distance themselves from the violence of slavery in order to maintain a particular esteem among enslaved people. A slave-owning man from Georgia declared, I rarely punish myself, but make a driver. He said, I rarely punish myself, but make a driver. Typically an enslaved man who assumed the responsibilities of an overseer, virtually an executive officer, to inflict punishment, so that I may remove from the mind of the servant who commits a fault the unfavorable impression too apt to be indulged in, that it is for pleasure rather than for the purpose of enforcing obedience and establishing good order that punishments are inflicted. Yeah, that was a lot. That's what he said, though. By delegating brutal forms of mastery to subordinates, slave-owning men and women cleansed themselves of the dark taint that subsequently stained the men who carried out the orders. The alleged differences that scholars claim existed between men and women's punishment of the enslaved people they own probably have more to do with these historians' own interpretations than with the evidence of that time. White women did face their share of resistance to the management of enslaved persons on plantation estates. After Letty Luke, not Betty, Letty, Letty, Letty Luke. After Letty Luke, purchased an enslaved boy named Simon with the aid of her trustee, she found that she was wholly unable to govern him. Citing this as a reason to sell Simon, she petitioned the court for permission to buy an enslaved girl or a woman to replace him, and the court granted her request. They didn't say how old he was, but he must have been fighting back. Yeah, she couldn't do nothing with him. Letty Lou could easily have delegated Simon's governance to the white men around her, but she wanted to assume this responsibility herself. When she found herself unable to exercise her power over Simon in the ways that she thought appropriate, she sold him rather than relinquish control to the men she knew. Because she knew they weren't going to do nothing but beat him and take his value down. He wasn't going to be no good for her. He wouldn't even be able to fan her ass when she claimed she was too hot because he would have been maimed. Too bad by how the men would have punished him. So she just sold him and got her a girl slave, got her another slave. But let's read. Enslaved people's modes of resistance compel both men and women to develop a variety of tactics to maintain order, not simply because of their gender, but because these African Americans challenged their owners' rights to their bodies and their labor. Sometimes owners found it easier to delegate the responsibility of slave discipline. It is also important to recognize that when men and women distance themselves from violent forms of discipline, it allowed them to maintain their reputations as members of the Southern gentility while preserving their authority as slave owners and employers of lower class white Southerners. So see, that made them seem like they were just so gentle. Just because they overseer beat that slave she was just maimed. Her arm just hung there. For the rest of her life, they beat her so bad her arm just hung there. She couldn't even use it to feed herself or nothing. Couldn't even wipe the sleep out of her eyes with that arm. But see, they didn't do it. The white woman, the missus, and the master, they wasn't the one that beat her. They let the overseer or some other slaves beat her, so they didn't feel guilty. They didn't really feel guilty. She let them beat them until they did that to her. But, they didn't feel no guilt about it and stuff. Yet some slave-owning women and men chose to handle slave discipline themselves. And when they did, men and women employed similar methods of control. Some were careful of their slaves' welfare. And others, both men and women, were brutal towards their slaves. Analyzer Foster, Analiza. Analyzer Foster told her WPA interviewer that her mammy belonged to Mr. Cash and pappy belonged to Miss Bessie Woods. Both of these owners was mean to their slaves, and they ain't caring much if they kills one, cause they's got plenty. Claiborne Moss described how the slave patrollers didn't whip nobody in the Arkansas community where he lived. He said that these white men couldn't whip nobody on our place, on Jesse Mills' place, on Stephen Mills' place, on Betty Greasley's place, on Nancy Mills' place, on Potter Duggan's place. Nobody run them people's plantations but themselves. Regardless of what the former laws said about slave patrollers' rights to discipline slaves in these communities, and no matter how much authority the laws afforded to the slave patrols, these slave owners, men and women, had created systems of management and control that denied power to these men. More important, Claiborne Moss's testimony indicates that the slave patrollers recognized the power of female slave owners on the same basis as that of their male counterparts. But then to turn around and make it seem like it was only white men that was doing all of this, it was white men and white women. Yes, it was, honey. Where the lie at? Let's read, though. Let's see how much we got to go here. Oh, man. It ain't really that much. Let's see. We're on page 70. We got like 10 pages. Then we'll be done with this chapter. Yep. The regime of slavery could not have been sustained if the power, authority, and violence that characterized it had belonged to elite white men alone. It required modes of flexible power. Those who owned enslaved people wielded extraordinary authority, but so did overseers and enslaved drivers, as well as employers who hired enslaved people from their owners. There were even occasions when enslaved people exercised power over the lives and deaths of free people and other enslaved persons. They could, for example, implicate an enslaved or free person in a plan for revolt and thereby seal that person's fate. The hypersurveillance the regime required was possible only if every white person, be it a man, woman, child, slave owner, or non-slave owner, had the potential power to make an enslaved person obey him or her and submit to his or her will. And the law so empowered them. Such systems of shared power did not typically characterize hierarchical societies wherein white men sat at the apex. They existed in societies that could be considered hierarchical in nature. Hierarchy allows power to be shared in a number of ways, not just vertically, but also horizontally. And enslaved and formerly enslaved people spoke of slave-owning households that were structured in this way. Although in most studies of slavery, the underlying assumption is that only male heads of the household exercise mastery over enslaved people. Formerly enslaved people forthrightly challenged this view. Formerly enslaved people spoke about households in which slave-owning couples owned enslaved people independent of each other, that is, in their own right. They spoke of households in which slave-owning couples exercised double mastery. Each spouse had his or her own style of slave management and discipline styles that could be complementary or incompatible. And when their styles clashed, conflict was often the result. Some couples, for example, preferred one style of mastery for managing and disciplining their own slaves, and another, perhaps more brutal, system to control those of their spouse. In other households, slave-owning couples allocated discipline and management according to the enslaved person's sex. Millie Evans' master would tend to the enslaved men, and her mistress would tend to the women. Other couples, though, like Cecilia Chapel's master and mistress, delegated management and discipline according to where the enslaved people labored, in the house versus the field, for example. The couple shared the responsibility of punishing the slaves who worked in the house, while they employed overseers to discipline those who worked in the fields. Slave-owning couples also used different instruments to administer punishment, and this too was a reflection of their particular styles of achieving mastery and preserving the value of their human property. On the plantation where Anna Miller resided, her master punished the men with a cowhide whip, and her mistress often whipped the women with needleweed branches. At first glance, Miller's emphasis on the different instruments of discipline that her master and mistress used might imply that her mistress chose a milder method of punishment, a choice that could support the contention that white women were more concerned about their slaves' well-being. But this was not the case. When Miller's mistress whipped with the nettleweed, Miller remembered, "The licks ain't so bad, but the stinging and the burning after am sure misery. That just plums runs me crazy." The small hairs that cover the stems of the nettlewood, also known as stinging nettle, probably caused the sensation Miller described. These small hairs contain several chemicals that cause intense pain when they come into contact with the skin. When the affected area was rubbed, the motion would push the hairs and the pain-inducing chemicals deeper into the skin, prolonging the pain and the irritation. Miller's mistress's weapon of choice had a long-lasting, increasingly painful effect on the bodies of the enslaved females living in her household. Beyond achieving her disciplinary goals, this mistress's use of nettleweed branches might have been an economically sound choice as well. Cowhide whips were notorious for cutting open the flesh, causing debilitating injuries that could lead to an enslaved person's death. Even when the victim lived, The whip left horrible scars that often decreased the price of a prospective buyer was willing to pay for him or her. That often decreased the price a prospective buyer was willing to pay for him or her. Slave owners who hoped to protect their slaves' potential value in the market used instruments that would allow them to inflict pain without even leaving permanent marks. In typical cases involving contact with nettleweed, the sufferer developed a skin rash that healed on its own and generally left no marks. Thus, by using the nettleweed branch, Miller's mistress was able to punish her severely, yet still preserve her value in the slave market. Yep. Most commonly, when formerly enslaved people described households in which double mastery prevailed, they remarked upon a clear differentiation between the broader systems of management and discipline their masters and mistresses used, and frequently they reported that one of their owners would beat them while the other one did not. While assumptions based on gender might suggest that women were the ones who refrained from beatings, this was not always the case. Husbands frequently disagreed with their wives' chosen disciplinary strategies because they were too brutal, and they were not always willing to dole out punishment on their wives' behalf. Julia Blanks, Blanks, recalled that her master was good because he wouldn't whoop any of his slaves, but his wife wasn't good. If she got mad at the woman, when he would come home, she would say, "John, I want you to whoop Liza or Martha." And he would say, "Them are your slaves. You whoop them." In these cases, slave-owning women had little choice but to assume the role of disciplinarian or to delegate the task to others. Slave-owning husbands sometimes found their wives' violence toward enslaved people so disturbing that they could not ignore it and felt compelled to intervene. Penny Thompson's master, Calvin Ingram, would fight with his mistress lots of time about the treatment of the slaves they owned. He just wouldn't let her abuse them. George G. King, who lived 6 miles northeast of Lexington, South Carolina, recalled that master talked hard words, but mistress whooped. In fact, his mistress was a great believer in the power of punishment, and she would whoop his mammy till she was just a piece of living raw meat. Even King, though he was a child, frequently felt the cut of her lash. Her husband tried to intervene, but was ultimately powerless to stop her. She was so cruel that her husband tried to sell George King to prevent his wife from abusing him further. But his mistress owned the slaves, and they couldn't be sold without her say-so. When King's mistress discovered her husband's plan, she prevented the sale and swiftly retaliated. As King and his master were forced to stand and watch, the mistress commanded the overseer to strip, bind, and whip his mother. The beating left her laying all a shiver on the ground, like a wounded animal dying from the chase. King remembered his mistress walking away, laughing while his mammy screamed and groaned. His master had a remarkably different response. He stood there looking sad and wretched, like he could feel the blows. One woman's violence toward her slaves was enough to drive her husband to abandon her. When he left, he took all the slaves he owned with him and left her with the 3 she had brought into their marriage. Beyond merely quarreling with their wives or surreptitiously selling their slaves, some white men felt the need to physically intervene on behalf of enslaved people when their wives acted brutally toward them. Jack Barbee, Barbee, would physically restrain his wife when her punishments became too much for him to bear. One woman who was enslaved by the couple remembered that Barbee jerked her off of the slaves many a time, and he'd say, "Plague take you, you trying to kill that little baby." That's what he said. "Plague take you, you trying to kill that little baby." When he would find one of the cowhide whips, his wife used to beat their slaves, he would cut it up so she could not use it. Without a cowhide whip at her disposal, Jack Barbie's wife resorted to beating her slaves with small, thorn-covered branches that pierced their skin with every strike. This, the formerly enslaved women thought, was more brutal than the cowhide whips. Real Sorrel, Riasorrel, Real Sorrel claimed that her owner, Elizabeth Sorrel, was the pure devil because she just enjoyed whooping Negroes. Elizabeth was so violent, in fact, that her husband would stop her from whooping her slaves in his presence. She would wait until he went into town to do so. She also refused to feed the slaves properly, and when she had her way, our food was bad. Real remembered Elizabeth saying that the underleaves of collars was good enough for slaves. Her husband had other ideas. He took feeding in his hands and fed us plenty of times. Real Sorrel said that he did so because he believed people couldn't work without eating. Jack Barbie's wife held similar ideas to Elizabeth Sorrel's about the kind of food suitable for the enslaved people she and her husband owned. The enslaved children on their farm did not receive any meat because they didn't work. Barbie's wife exploited this fact, and her slaves near starvation conditions. Barbie's wife exploited this fact and her slaves near starvation conditions to develop a dastardly form of food-related torment. Her former slave remembered. Oh, I know, right? Yeah, we ain't got long, y'all. We got a few more pages. Her former slave remembered. Once a man bought some old hog heads and pieces of fresh meat like that to old mistress in a barrel to make soap with. And the things was just floating on top. And she got mad because the grown folks, the slaves, wouldn't eat it. She give it to us chilling. Of course, we was glad to get it because it was meat. And we eat it till it make us sick. And they couldn't give us any more. And Mr. Man who had given the meat to them came by and found out what she had done. And he said, I just brought that meat here because I thought you might want to make soap. I didn't know you were going to make nobody eat it. I wouldn't give it to my dogs. Hog heads? Wait, is that what he was talking about? Hog heads? I think so. I don't eat pork no more and stuff. I don't eat hog heads no more and stuff. But that's what it said. Old hog heads. Yeah. They were using it to make soap. The hell, she gave it to the kids to eat and it made them sick and stuff. Women's slave ownership influenced the character of their mastery as well as the methods of discipline they used to control their slaves versus those the husbands used. Silas Glenn remarked that his mistress was good to the slaves that come into her from her daddy, but was mean to some of the slaves that come from the Glenn side, her husband's family. Susan Merritt made the same distinction between her master's kindness and her mistress's meanness. On a number of occasions, her mistress would tie Merritt to a stub in the yard and cowhide her until she became too tired to continue. She would take a break, and after she was rested, resume her violence. Merritt believed that her mistress treated her this way because she was massa nigger, and she have her own niggers what come on her side. So she never did like her. That's what she thought. A formerly enslaved woman's new mistress, who owned enslaved people in her own right, exhibited particular disdain for her husband's slaves. Once she moved into their conjugal home, she removed her husband's female slaves from the house, reassigned her to field work, and replaced her with one of the slaves her mother gave her when she married. On another occasion, a calf found its way under the house and made water. What that mean? Piss? And made water. The mistress accused two young boys who belonged to her husband of relieving themselves under the house instead. She waited until her husband was away from the house. Then she bound the boys in the kitchen so they could not get away. She pulled up a chair sat down and ordered her slave to beat them. The beating became so brutal that all of the slaves on the place was crying. That's what it say. Them poor babies. Wait a minute. Let me find my play. The beating became so brutal that all of the slaves on the place was crying. One of the enslaved men ran to his master and told him what the mistress was doing. The master returned home as quickly as he could, but discovered that his wife had locked the door. He demanded that she open it, and she refused. He eventually had to break down the door. By that time, too much damage had been done. The boys were so traumatized that they couldn't even cry when he got there. One boy died 2 days later, and the other boy died within a month. Slave mastery involved more than corporal discipline and the spectacular scenes that often accompany such brutality. Mastery and slave discipline were embedded in what literary scholar Sadiya Hartman calls the quotidian routines of slavery. Mastery and domination masqueraded as kindness and benevolence. Slave owners' indulgences, allowances for free time, concern for preserving the integrity of enslaved couples and families, refusal to sell those they own, and countless other behaviors and choices appeared to be facts of humanity, but in reality were calculated decisions made to enforce submission or preserve an enslaved person's value in slave markets. Underlying each of these choices was the implicit, looming danger of sale. Whether spoken or unspoken, threats of sale could sometimes be more effective than beatings. When enslaved people misbehaved, male and female slave owners would often threaten to put them in their pockets, sell them. And they tell them they're going to put them in their pockets, they mean they're going to sell them. Recognizing that the mere threat of a sale could produce the submission they desired. Formerly enslaved people did talk about kind and caring mistresses, but kindness and caring often meant that their female owners treated them like human beings and respected their dignity in basic ways. They did not starve the people they owned. They did not sell them, compel them to bare their bodies in public for want of proper clothing, or flay their flesh for burning the biscuits. Enslaved people interpreted such acts of humanity as calculated choices along a spectrum of many others. They knew, for example, that a variety of reasons might explain why a slave owner decided not to sell them. Something as simple as the time of year could affect their value in the market and influence the owner's decision to sell or keep them. If we wish to understand how slave owners' behavior adversely affected the lives of enslaved people, even when their actions appear to be kind and benevolent, we must approach all these behaviors with a critical eye and take our cues from the enslaved people who described them. We're supposed to be listening to the enslaved people, to our people, as they describe this. I used to read when I was a little girl, when I wasn't a little girl, when I got older and stuff. I think I had moved to Minnesota because I ran across the slave narratives. I wasn't a little girl. That's when I was reading Root. The slave narratives would have came after I moved to Minnesota. And I just came across them and stuff around when Trayvon Martin was murdered by George Zimmerman. That's when I started realizing that things is not right. But those slave narratives, we need them. We need them. We need to read them. We need to listen to them. Those are our love letters from our ancestors of what happened, what they went through. But let's read. Nonetheless, the advice, suggestions, and examples submitted to the management of Negroes columns in agricultural journals like Debo's Review and the Southern Planter make it clear that many members of the master class assumed that their compatriots did consider violence a tool that helped them achieve mastery over enslaved people. In many pieces, it was assumed that readers used or knew others who used brutal forms of discipline on a consistent basis. And many slave-owning authors felt it necessary to caution subscribers and fellow slaveholders against using brutality too often. Writers advised their fellow slave owners to punish in moderation and not with severity. And they reminded them that in the infliction of punishment, it should ever be borne in mind that the object is correction. So long as they feel like they teaching, the slave how to correct themselves and whatever they did, they felt like it was okay. Such cautionary advice suggests that brutal discipline as such was not perceived to be the problem, but rather the unceasing use of such violence. These authors instructed subscribers to use brutality only when necessary. They did not advise them to refrain from it altogether. In the third installment of the 1843 issue of the Southern Planter, Cecilia published an article titled Management of Servants. In her short survey, Cecilia offered guidance to women who might be experiencing trouble managing their slaves. Cecilia recognized that women were capable of possessing and exercising the power to make enslaved people submit to their will, and she instructed them to mete out punishment themselves. She advised, never scold when a servant neglects his duty, but always punish him, no matter how mildly, for maltreatment is the best. Severity hardens them. Be firm in this, that no neglect go unpunished. Never let a servant say to you, I forgot it. Finally, let regularity mark every action, and the consequence will be that everything will be done in its right place and at its right time, and the comforts and happiness of the family will be secured. Cecilia not only advised her female readers to inflict punishment, she also recommended that they develop a system by which they could do so with regularity. She advised them against impulsive and sporadic acts of violence and suggested inflicting discipline in a systematic and a calculated way. Whoa. Cecilia's article was somewhat unusual for two reasons. The author was a woman, and she directed her advice to female readers, even though the periodical had a primarily male readership. If Cecilia wrote this article with a female readership in mind, it suggested that she assumed that such a readership existed. Such an assumption also suggests that similarities between the women's and the men's system of slave management and discipline could have been the result of women reading such periodicals. Southern laws did not offer a clear or universal definition of what constituted cruelty in the context of slavery. Felipe Toca, T-O-C-A, the Justice of the Peace for St. Bernard Parish, Louisiana, argued that it was not possible to craft a single legal definition of what constituted cruelty in all cases. In Walker versus Kukula, C-U-C-U-L-L-U, a case involving the rescission of a slave sale, Toca argued that however severe the chastisement may appear to certain persons, it was acceptable if it was done within the limits prescribed by the law. Moreover, he opened opinion, punishment must necessarily depend on the circumstances of each case in particular. And if the case was a grave one, the chastisement will probably be severe. For example, if the slave is of a robust constitution, the chastisement may be increased in proportion to his strength compared to the gravity of his faults. Everything depends upon circumstances of which the owner is the judge. The law alone prescribes him the instruments of punishment to be made use of and forbids him the right to punish so as to maim, mutilate, disable, or put in jeopardy and peril for his life. If the law was otherwise, the right to discipline would be illusory. illusory. Most states were in agreement. As long as the punishment did not maim, mutilate, or imperil the life of an enslaved person, brutality was legal. There were, however, exceptions that allowed white people to kill enslaved people with impunity. South Carolina declared it lawful for any white person to beat, maim, or assault a black person. And if such Negro or slave cannot otherwise be taken to kill him, who shall refuse to shew his ticket? Who shall refuse to shew his ticket? SHEW. I ain't never seen that word before. Or by running away or resistance, shall endeavor to avoid being apprehended or taken. When slave owners' methods of punishment did maim or kill, the law in states like Mississippi and South Carolina included provisions that absolved them of wrongdoing. If Mississippi slave owners swore an oath that they had not intended to cause their slaves death, or claimed that a death was caused by accident or misfortune in lawfully correcting a servant or in the heat of passion, upon any sudden and sufficient provocation, courts would typically acquit them. If the slaves they owned inflicted punishment on their owner's behalf, if the slaves they owned inflicted punishment on the owner's behalf, they too would be acquitted. The murder trial of Eliza Rowand, Rowand, and her husband's slave, Richard, offers a powerful example of how these laws condone brutal acts that led to enslaved people's deaths and absolved their owners of responsibility, even when the owners were women. In 1847, Eliza Rowand became the first woman in the state of South Carolina to be put on trial for the murder of a slave. She was accused of commanding her husband's slave, Richard, to strike an enslaved woman named Maria multiple times on the head with a block of wood, a beating that eventually led to Maria's death. South Carolina law stipulated that if a slave died as a result of a master's punishment and no white persons were present to witness the incident, the slave owner could exculpate, exculpate, the slave owner could exculpate him or herself by claiming that the violence had not been inflicted maliciously. Eliza Rowand told the court that Maria had misbehaved that morning, and she had ordered Richard to take her to Mr. Rowand's house, her husband, to Mr. Rowand, her husband's house, to be corrected. She did this knowing that Mr. Rowand was absent from the city. She also claimed that Richard never punished Maria on her command and that no beating took place in her chambers. In fact, Rowand claimed that she had no idea who inflicted the blows that killed Maria. Even so, she, as law permits, by calling on God, exculpated herself. No white witnesses came forward to challenge her claims. Considering her oath alone to be good, the jury found her not guilty. Richard was tried around the same time as Rowand and was subsequently found not guilty as well. The freeholders who adjudicated the case exonerated Richard because he was merely the instrument of his mistress's cruelty. In another case, the fugitive slave turned abolitionist, William Wells Brown, told a London audience that a woman was recently tried for causing the death of a Negro girl. She was acquitted on the ground that it was her slave woman who actually committed the deed. The slave woman was afterwards tried and acquitted on the ground that she committed the murder on the authority of her of her mistress. So the mistress got off because she said that the slave did it. So she got off. Then the slave, when they tried to charge her with the murder, she said that she only did it because her mistress forced her to do it. And she was a slave, so she had to do it. So she got off too. Nobody was ever convicted. Similar incidents went unnoticed by the Southern press and have escaped scholarly attention for a number of reasons. Similar incidents went unnoticed by the Southern press and have escaped scholarly attention for a number of reasons because it's white women. They don't ever want you to think that white women could do any of them things that black men did, that white men did. They don't want us to think that. Whatever you think, Black America, it's okay to think it about the white man, but don't you think it about the white woman. See, it's been a whole manipulation thing. They done fooled our ass, honey, show how. You better be careful, honey, how Sabrina finna come out that bag on your ass. I'm just saying. Your ass better be particular of how Sabrina gonna come out. You know how Karen coming. We already know how Karen gonna come out. Cause we see her ass out there now. But Sabrina, you better be particular. I'm just saying, hey, do what you will with the information. Do what you will with the information. But let's see why these number of reasons why they don't want to tell about white women and stuff to keep you sympathetic of the white woman, the white girl. She get to crying them big old crocodile tears. She ain't crying for none of our loved ones. Her ass ain't crying for none of our loved ones. She ain't crying for us. Shit. The majority of these women's crimes against their slaves remain confined within their households. And more often than not, enslaved people were the only witnesses. Didn't nobody know but the enslaved people. Yep, what they were doing. Since Southern laws forbade them to testify against white people, their testimony was inadmissible. In some court cases, a woman's violent action caused an enslaved person's death and served as the underlying cause of a legal suit, but the woman herself was never named as a defendant or punished for her crime. On January 1st, 1824, Marshall Mann, M-A-N-N, hired an enslaved girl named Fanny from Charles C. Trabue, T-R-A-B-U-E, with the proviso that he could purchase her once the contract for her hire expired. After her contract was over, he could buy her. That's what he said. When the time came to return Fanny or pay tribute for her hire, Mann refused to do so because Fanny had died shortly after he hired her. Mann stood trial for Fanny's death, and the jury acquitted him. Undaunted by their decision, Trabue sued Mann for breach of contract. In his own defense, Mann told the court that he was not obliged to pay tribute because although Fanny died in his possession, her death was the consequence of an act of God. What happened to her? Something that dissolved Mann's liability. The court disagreed and ruled in favor of Trabue's. The court disagreed and ruled in favor of Trabue, and Mann appealed, citing his acquittal in the case of Fanny's death in the lower court. The Missouri Supreme Court dismissed Mann's appeal and upheld the lower court's ruling. One thing remained unsaid in all of Mann's cases. His wife was responsible for Fanny's death. Even members of their community knew it. One Missouri man recounted in precise detail how Mann's wife had brutalized Fanny and claimed that the day after Mann's wife had tortured Fanny, she was found dead. Fanny was silently and quickly buried, but rumor was not so easily stopped. The murdered slave was disinterred and an inquest held. Her back was a mass of jellied muscle, and the coroner brought in a verdict of death by the 6-pound paddle. 6-pound paddle. Mrs. Mann fled the district for a few months, but no action was taken against her. By some accounts, white slave owners concealed their most brutalized slaves from observers who might object to their violence, even going so far as to borrow healthy slaves from neighbors when they entertained visitors. When slave owners inflicted punishments that resulted in a slave's death, some rid themselves of the body or told inquisitive people that the slave in question had died of disease. Enslaved people's deaths were not complete financial losses to their owners. Medical schools across the nation bought the bodies of deceased enslaved people from former slave owners for dissection and research, and thereby offered slave owners a profitable way to make such bodies disappear. Slave-owning women, especially when it led to strike us as irrational destruction that was counterproductive, in large part because it seemed to be in direct conflict with their financial investment in the people they own. After all, such violence impaired enslaved people's ability to work and decreased or obliterated their value in the market. But a slave-owning woman's decisions to abuse, maim, or kill her slaves was simply an extreme version of her right to exclude others from reaping the benefits of having access to the slaves she herself abused or destroyed. She want to do it. She want to do it. Moreover, there were benefits that accrued from such actions, and they served an important purpose for slave-owning women and their communities. The abuse and murder of enslaved people had expressive value that affirmed a slave-owning woman's power. It was also expressive because some slave-owning women enacted this violence in ritualized performances and forced enslaved men, women, and children to watch as a way of further convincing them of that power. Broader social order was another important benefit. By evoking terror in enslaved populations, slave owners and their communities increased the likelihood that they could exact submission from enslaved people. When enslaved people fled beyond their owners' reach, Southern laws endowed members of militias, community patrols, and ordinary white Southerners with the power to destroy them and display their remains, such as the heads of decapitated rebels in public. A number of factors help explain different outcomes in cases involving slave abuse or homicide. First, a slave owner had to have a reason for killing a slave. An owner could not kill a slave without cause or out of cruelty, willfulness, wantonness, or bloody mindedness. In reality, owners could easily manufacture justifications that satisfied the court and could not be disputed because enslaved witnesses were barred from testifying against them. Second, community norms could shape a court's decision to convict or acquit a slave owner who killed. If white members of the community found a slave owner's abuse or murder of an enslaved person so reprehensible as to compel them to alert authorities and testify in subsequent legal cases, their disapproval might influence the court's judgment. It might influence the court's judgment. But you know, a lot of times white folks didn't tell on white folks. A lot of times they didn't. I think you had more John Brown's mindset then than you do now. White folks ain't telling on each other today. They protecting each other. And when the shit hit the fan, they're going to protect each other again. So will, honey. You bet your bottom dollar. Yep. So the white woman is the key, huh? Yeah, the one they've been protecting all this time. How could y'all even think that none of them feel these ways about you, the white woman or the white man? I'm just saying, and black man, how could you not even want to know about any of this? I ain't talking about y'all that do know and that want to know and that studying and that learn. I'm talking about like the tailbones. You know, tailbone ain't here no more. Well, I said it earlier, what happened to tailbone. But how can y'all? And then you laying up with your white girlfriend, your white wife and stuff, Sabrina and Karen. You know. Oh, I'm just saying, yeah. Man. All right, let's read. We almost done, y'all. This is the last page. We're almost. Yeah, we got another page and that's it. All right, let's finish this, honey. If white members of the community found a slave owner's abuse or murder of an enslaved person so reprehensible as to compel them to alert authorities and testify in subsequent legal cases, their disapproval might influence the court's judgment. Far more often, however, communities sought to sanction slave owners who refused to punish their slaves or who allowed their slaves too much freedom. Finally, legislators did not impose legal constraints upon slave owners' powers to abuse, punish, and kill their slaves out of concern for enslaved people's well-being. They did so in order to preserve the interests of relatives who would inherit their estates, the property, the slaves, and would suffer if the property was squandered or damaged or maimed. Ain't nothing you can do with a maimed slave. Ain't much you can do with her. Ain't much she can do for you if you done wounded your slave. You done maimed them for life. You know. You said it right there. They did so in order to preserve the interests of relatives who would inherit their estates. and would suffer if the property was squandered. If abuse and destruction did not threaten to deprive heirs of their rightful inheritance, courts might acquit a slave owner who killed. That is going the other way. Some of the cases discussed here might appear to suggest that when slave owning women brutalized and killed enslaved people, Southern judges and jurors exonerated them because of gendered ideas about women or an assumption that a woman's violence toward enslaved people was somehow different from a man's. But judges and juries were consistent in their leniency toward slave owning men and women, and Southern laws generally allowed most white Southerners, not just the women, who killed, dismembered, or maimed enslaved people, even those who did not belong to them, to do so with impunity. Most Southern judges and members of Southern juries were slave owners themselves and could sympathize with the defendants before them. Even if they did not, their decision to exonerate a defendant might have been influenced by the thought that they might eventually find themselves before a jury of their slave-owning peers, from whom they would hope for similar consideration. Judges and jurors generally adjudicated their cases according to precedent, building upon other decisions in cases involving an owner's murder of an enslaved person. With the exception of the most egregious cases, slave owning and non-slave holding white men and women were not held accountable for such crimes beyond a possible fine. Say the estimated value of the deceased slave, if she or he belonged to someone else, though their actions would have been punishable by death if their victims had been free and white. White women were members of slave-owning communities built on a system of white supremacy and the subjugation of African-descended people. The laws governing these communities gave slave-owning women the right to make enslaved people submit to their will, and they routinely exercised that right. We're done. We finished chapter 3. Look at that. We on chapter 4. Tomorrow, she thought she could find a better market. Martha J. Jones, was a young white girl living in the upper western region of Virginia where she acquired extensive knowledge about the slave market and trade. Her father's slave dealing brother was her teacher, and his farm served as her school. Martha Jones not only knew through secondhand knowledge that her uncle, John C. Turner, would buy, sell, and trade slaves all the time, she witnessed him engaging in these activities herself. Oh, yeah, we're going to start there tomorrow. Yes. I thank y'all so much. I know it's difficult. It's a challenge. Yeah, I'm learning to read better and better because I'm reading out loud now. It's different when you're reading to yourself and you're reading silently than it is reading out loud. Yeah, you get thirsty, you get distracted, you get cockeyed and seeing different words and stuff. You might read the same paragraph. Yeah, you know, it's a learning thing. You learn as you go, trial by error, I guess. And I just thank y'all. I thank you so much for being there. You know, we're going to finish this book soon. It's going to have to be one chapter a night, though, y'all. Yeah, let's see what's the time is. It's still going to have to be, oh, damn, we late. Maybe I talked a little more. These some long chapters. I'll get right to the reading, you know, as soon as we come on with it and stuff. But I just want y'all to remember, keep a song in your heart and keep your gratitude. We're going to have to sleep tonight, get us some rest. We're going to have to rejuvenate so we can process this right on out of us and stuff. We reading it, we learning it, what's happened and stuff, but we don't want to hold on to all of this. All of this, it's a lot. All of this right here that we learning on this channel right here and on Julian Johnson Law, that's my brother I was talking about the other night and stuff. I learned so much from his channel and stuff, from all of y'all channels. And I appreciate all of y'all because I'm going to be sincere with everything that I learned from my people. And I just want us, you know, tonight when we lay down and rejuvenate and rest our minds and our bodies and stuff, and we process this out, but hold on to what it means for your people, what it meant then, what it means now, and what it very well could mean in the next few days, you know, with this rising racial tension that we in, because the tension is raising, y'all. Racial tension is steadily raising. You know, and I don't know. I just know when white folks reach that pinnacle of uncontrolled, they ain't got control of nothing else. You see, they ain't got no money like they had and stuff because Trump is fucking up everybody's money. You know, white folks have lived in such comfort. It ain't comfortable for them no more. We used to struggling. Oh yeah, we used to struggling, but white folks ain't used to that. You know, and now they losing a lot of stuff. And a lot of them gonna blame us. Just like with the draft riots. I didn't know about the draft riots till I learned about them. And the wealthy white men were able to pay so they didn't have to go fight in the war to free black people, you know, down south. But the poor white men that didn't have money and stuff, they couldn't pay, you know, so they didn't have to go to the draft and stuff. And then there was some Irish men too. It was Irish men too. See, I don't know nothing about Irish people and stuff, but they was upset too because the women, I think it was the women that started asking the men, so what are you going to do when you go over here and fight this war and you free all the niggers down south and stuff, and then they come here and they take your jobs, your women, they move right into our community. So that right there made the white men and them Irish men decide, hey, I don't want to go fight for their asses and stuff. So they didn't want to go be drafted to the war. What happened was everybody, because they was attacking the representatives, the drafters, the people that was in the offices that was sending out letters and going to visit them. Were you between the ages of 16 and 45, 65 or whatever? Well, you been drafted to the war. Well, they were going down there attacking them folks at the office and stuff. But when that happened, and the white lady said, hey, wait a minute now. What about when you free all these slaves after the war and stuff? They didn't go attack the drafters no more. Everybody turned their attention to the black man and started attacking the black man. There you go, the draft rights. That's what it was called, the draft rights. And it's like now, when white folks get upset into that breaking point and we ain't got money, we can't go on vacation no more. You know, I mean, it's taking me $500 to buy my groceries this month, and I don't make but $50,000 a year. They're gonna go off. They're gonna go off because they're gonna look at it like black people, you're causing trouble again. You're trying to stand on your own, you're trying to take care of yourself, you're trying to protect yourself, you're trying to teach yourself, you're trying to get away from us. And they're gonna look at it like it's your fault. However, they asses is the major ones that voted for all of this. Everybody voted for all of this. That's why everybody's losing everything. Didn't nobody want to vote for Kamala so everybody can fight another day? They didn't want to vote for Kamala because she was black. They want to see no color-faced woman up in there, and she ain't black. That's why some of us didn't want to vote for her, but most of us did, like 92%. The few percentage that didn't vote for Kamala, that's because of their white friends. That's because they white friends. That's all they hang around is with white friends and stuff. They got that white mentality. I know somebody gonna see this and, no, face, you is a lie. I ain't even got no white friends like that, but you got a white mind. You got a white mentality. So see, you know, everybody brought this on themselves and stuff. This ain't our fault. Hell no. Oh, look at you. I don't know who you talking to. Yeah. But I love y'all, my people, and I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, that's a lot to read right there. Whoa, yeah. I'll get to it though. But I love y'all, and I'll see you tomorrow, my people. And you just remember to keep a song and your gratitude with you always, because that's all you got. That's all you got. Your song and your gratitude. Now, you know that sun is yours out there. You know that sun is giving you the bulk of its energy. The cosmos manifested you. Everybody else came from you, black woman and black man. Remember, Africa and America is one. Black Africa, black America. We won. We won in the same. This is our fight. This is our fight. We got to get in it. You know, that's all I want to say. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Let's just go rejuvenate, process this out so we can be our greatest. We getting back to our greatest. We going to heal us. One page at a time. Yep. I love y'all. Peace and power to the people.